Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of PODcakes. Today is episode number 14, and we have royalty in studio for all of us to enjoy. That's right, today we have Kris Fant hanging out with me, and we are learning all things about her, from growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area to meeting her now husband, Nathan, not Nate, but Nathan, and learning how to ride ADV and all the stories that go with it. Today's episode is absolutely fantastic, and I'm very excited to bring this episode to you. Friends, if you like what we're doing here on PODcakes and you want to help support this channel, please consider becoming a Patreon member. The link is down below. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee per month, and all the proceeds go and help make this channel more gooder for everybody to enjoy. If you are watching this on the YouTubes at the Moto-Cycles and Pancakes YouTube channel, go down, leave us a comment, and remember to like, subscribe, and share. If you're on the Apple Podcasts or Spotify, do the same thing. Make sure you go and you hit the subscribe and leave us a review. All of those analytic tickers are just setting us up in front of a new audience that we are recently reaching, and it has been so positive to get these new viewers and listeners involved here with PODcakes. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode with the almighty Kris Fant. And without further ado, let's start it. We have actual Moto royalty in the house today, 100%. Something that I've been super excited about. And I got to tell you, Kris, when I decided to do a podcast, it happened very quickly. From the time I was like, I think I want to do one of those, to actually like doing it and freeforming the whole thing. I put a list together, and I was like, okay, what is my dream list? And then, like, not like crazy dream list, but kind of the realistic, right? Like, you can't have, like, I don't know, throw any A-list Brad Pitt person in there, right?
Right.
But I was like, these are the people I really want on there. And I think you were number 3.
Oh.
On that list. And the only reason it was probably 3 is because I had somebody else whispering in my ear going, we should add this and this. I'm like, okay. Oh, yeah. And
that's too sweet.
And then the fact that you're here is just, it's super awesome. And I'm really excited to find out more about you and just everything. I'm just so intrigued by all things Kris Fant here.
Oh, you're so sweet. And I'm just really honored to be here because I like the moment we met, I was like, I like this guy. Oops, I probably shouldn't hit your table.
Go ahead, do whatever, No, I think that feeling is mutual, and I'm happy you're here.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. So let's just get the thing rolling. So let's just kind of, as the cookie cutter does here, let's just go back. Tell us about Kris as a young girl, where you kind of grew up, and, just tell us the beginnings of you.
You bet. Well, sometimes I think my story started before I was even born.
Okay.
My mom had 5 miscarriages before me. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was a very, very wanted child. I think maybe she'd sort of maybe thought she wasn't having kids, but little trip to Hawaii fixed that. So,
nice. Yep.
Yeah. And then I was born a little bit early. So my earliest days were in an incubator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So hand-eye coordination, never been good, still isn't.
That's interesting.
Right?
With things to come.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's true. But I was born in like the San Jose Bay Area, California.
Okay.
And grew up there, had just loving, amazing parents. We were super active. My mom's Catholic, super active at the church, went to Catholic school for the first 8 years and volunteered a ton. Like, I think I was born a helper and then born into a life where service was valued.
Yeah.
And I think that has been my driving force ever since. So got into high school, went to public high school, but I think that those values carried through, and I got to be like a peer counselor, and, I was in the recycling club, and I was in, anything that could be to help people. And there was a club for, that was my jam.
Very active.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I went to college at Gonzaga. My parents and I are pretty close, and that was as far away as they would let me go.
Go Zags.
Yeah, so I was in Spokane, Washington. I was like, get to experience some snow, which was new for this California girl.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had gone skiing as a kid, and we'd been to snow, but that's like living, and it's a whole different thing. But I studied psychology there, and I don't know if you know what it's like to graduate with a degree in psychology, but it's not terribly useful.
Oh, okay.
It's like there's a few minimum wage jobs, or you can go to grad school, and I also had a baby during that time, so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I just sort of did some odd jobs, and let's see, my daughter actually had cancer when she was teeny tiny.
Oh.
And so, is totally fine now. But that was like big curveball. Like, okay, we're at the hospital and working nights and just trying to figure out, like, as a 21-year-old girl, how to survive.
That's young, and that is a huge responsibility right there with the cancer and everything.
Yeah. So, lots to learn through that.
Absolutely. Okay, so you just brushed over like a ton of stuff, right? So
Yes.
that's one thing that I really like is people will come on and they'll be like, well, I'm kind of boring or whatever they say, right? And then they're just like, yeah, I did this. And then I'm thinking in my mind, well, that's interesting. Okay, we got to go back to that. So you said, I have two things I want to go over. But going back, growing up, through you said the private school, going to Catholic school, so and that developed a lot of your helping kind of servant leadership. I think I'll use that term. Growing in there, and that kind of when you got into high school and you were finding these other clubs, what was it about those other clubs? Was it just because you had this knack of like, I really want to help and serve others, or is it maybe a little bit of also the environmental? You were saying the recycling club. Is it more like, oh, I can help the environment, plus I can help these people? Was there just this drive to you going into those?
Yeah, there was definitely, I mean, it sounds strange as an adult saying this, but as a teenager, I was like, I want to save the world. All of it. The people, the planet, all of it. And so like I got a lot out of it. Like as helpers, I think that's one thing that's not maybe always known is like when you help, you also really get like the gift of being able to do that. And I think I had so much privilege as a kid that I always felt this like I had this deep well of things I could give back.
I think that is a very admirable part of character building as we're growing up. I know like even through like my high school careers playing sports, especially football, and then moving forward into football and coaching and being kind of that servant leader, helping the kids grow and teach them. There's still life lessons that I've learned through that where it's still a part of my character, to this day. So that's why I was very intrigued by that. I know it's like football and recycling and helping. They're different, but yet they're the same.
For sure.
For the drive, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that like touching people's lives and supporting and teamwork, all that.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling.
For sure.
Yeah. There's been so many times through even raising my children and stuff where you get that one little moment, whatever that is, and you're just like, yes, that was so worth it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going through high school, any sports or anything? You did say your hand-eye coordination probably wasn't the best.
Yeah, no ball sports. I did grow up windsurfing and skiing with my dad.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, so we would drive to the mountain maybe once or twice a year.
Okay.
Ski at Kirkwood. And then, windsurfing, like lakeboarding. So it wasn't like jumping waves, but I always had the pictures up, like someday maybe that'll be me.
Was it ever you?
No, it was never me.
I did not know. Is that something you still do?
I don't. I had brought the boards up here and I'm like, there's such a limited season up here. And once I did actually when I was I lived in Seattle for 19 years while I was raising my daughter. And I did teach her to windsurf up there.
Okay.
Tried taking Nathan windsurfing once. You can ask him about that.
I can't wait.
And then eventually, like, motorcycles took over, and I was like, it's the same season. I can't do both. Like,
right.
One had to win.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you picked the right one.
Of course.
I can't wait to get into the motorcycle stuff. I'm trying to really throttle it back, kind of keep things into focus here, right?
Yes.
So getting out, you went to Gonzaga, Spokane. And what was that experience like? I mean, you already said seeing some snow and experiencing, colder weather.
Right. Yeah.
And things. Was it a bit of a shock to the system getting there?
I think, it was the first time I had gone anywhere so Catholic school, 8 years, same classmates, same 40 people.
Yeah.
Then I went to high school and half of them followed me, even though there were 1,600 people in high school. It was so going to Gonzaga, I knew nobody. And so that was the biggest shock to my system in a really positive way. As I was like, oh, I can be anybody I want to be here. I can recreate myself, which, we're still ourselves. So got involved in all sorts of community service and majored in psychology.
Hey, perfect, right?
Same person. But yeah, it was such a good experience to go away and I'm on my own, but you're still surrounded by the love of parents who are helping support this dream.
Right.
So yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that area. I like riding in that area.
Yeah.
I think going to college over there, obviously I didn't go there, but it would be a pretty cool experience. My cousin, he was a Gonzaga guy for a little bit, so
yeah.
I kind of want to say he was on the cycling team. I don't remember though. So, and then getting out, you were saying the psychology wasn't the best, but what drove you into the psychology? Was it more of just the same, or was there a little story behind it, or just fell into it?
So it's kind of funny. I grew up reading Nancy Drew. That was probably, I was an only child.
I have not heard of Nancy Drew for so long. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That was my passion. Who's another helper, right? She's helping all these people solve these mysteries. And I think I was probably in the 4th grade before I realized you couldn't just be Nancy Drew. And I don't know what I thought that meant, but I was I just wanted to be Nancy Drew when I grew up.
Yeah.
So I fell into thinking about I wanted to maybe be a cop, because that was the closest thing I could get to a detective, but the cop part didn't sound that interesting. So I was maybe a cop who works with juvenile delinquents. And so when I went to college, part of the reason for Gonzaga was they were one of the few 4-year colleges, which my parents were really adamant about, that also offered criminal justice.
Okay.
And I took my first criminal justice class, and it was the history of criminal justice, and we're reading about people on horseback, and I was where's the helping? This is not my jam. Meanwhile, I'm also in a psychology class, and it's it was probably also the history of psychology, but there was definitely that flavor of people and interaction. And so I very quickly switched I dropped criminal justice and jumped right into psychology, and then later got to take the upper level criminal justice classes. And those were fascinating.
Okay.
Learned so much, but all in service of my psychology degree and sociology minor.
That's actually really fascinating. Sitting in one class going, this other one's a little bit more gooder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Way gooder.
That's pretty cool. So you dove headfirst into that. And at some point, did you know, this is 100% the right decision?
That is a great question. I guess once I started down the path, I didn't think a ton about it. Mm-hmm. But I think it sort of all came together because I got pregnant while I was in college, and I was taking infant development and child psychology. And that all became really interesting to me. Learning about attachment, which is something that hugely applies. Now I'm a counselor, and I'm learning about infant attachment and how that plays into adult attachment, and how people relate to each other and how couples relate. And all of that was really interesting to me. Excuse me. And I was working at a crisis hotline, and I worked at a home for teen moms. And so getting to have that sort of the knowledge and the application felt that all came together right up until I graduated. And then I was oh, I have to support, a baby. And I was married, and my ex was finishing 1 more year of school because he had it on a he had it on a computer science degree
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, because he was a music major before, and he's baby, family.
Yeah. As somebody that's been in that music scene, yeah.
Yes.
There's not a lot there.
Right. Yeah. So I was well, what am I going to do with my life and my psychology degree? And I think I did a bunch of odd jobs, those folks that stand in front of grocery stores and collect signatures.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out I was really good at that because I just love talking to people. You talk to somebody for long enough, they're like, I'll sign your thing.
Yeah, I just need to go away. Let me sign it real quick. Yeah.
So that was fun. Did a lot of clerical work. I got to work at a cardiac rehab. I had taken sign language in college, and so I was working in cardiac rehab, and I also got to be their interpreter if they ever had anybody who was deaf needing rehab, and just this variety of odd jobs. Then my daughter was ill, so I just slipped into like medical records because you could do that at night.
Stop getting more fascinating here. It's like, okay. So when you got here, for the listener, we had this quick conversation, right? And I was just like, you're just so fascinating. I stalk your socials just like I do everybody before they come on here. And I'm just like, I don't know where to start because it's just A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it's all of a sudden now you're adding this whole other element to it. And I'm just like, okay, so we can go down what path now? This is just awesome. Absolutely. So the infant development and the attachment. So I read this book. The name slips me right now, but it was probably like the first half of the book was all about attachment. Mm-hmm. And when I say read this book, I was audiobook as I'm trucking down the road.
Yep.
And I found myself completely just like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, what the book is and what this is, this doesn't have anything to do with the other. And then I get in like a dork. I went, I am going to just skip to the other half of the book and totally whatever. I didn't really pay attention to it. It was hard to keep my interest. Mm-hmm. And then I got about a chapter and a half into the next part of the book and I went, oh, I got to go back because it's all okay. And I was just like, wow. So learning that too. And now I have not one, not two, but 3 grandbabies. Mm-hmm. Yay. I know. It's so good. And now I'm remembering about these attachments. And then I see my son do something or my other son do something. I'm like, oh, hey, hold on. Don't do it like that because... we go down that path. Mm-hmm. So I think that's absolutely, I think it's fascinating. I think we're going to have to start putting up a fascinating bill too for the podcast. Cause we do that on my videos for Fantastic. And it seems like it's fascinating is the podcast version of the dang, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
So you only have the one daughter? Mm-hmm. Okay.
1 daughter and 1 stepdaughter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a great family right there.
Yeah.
So moving forward in your career, you were saying you're trying to get out and find your niche, if you will, in the professional world. Mm-hmm. And you're pretty young, 21, 22 at this point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had kids pretty young too. Yeah. It was like 20 and 22 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So finding your niche and then growing as a parent, was there any like going through that cancer too? That's, I can't even imagine. And so there's a lot on your plate. And like, I'm trying to consider like, we have 2 brand new grandbabies and I'm trying to put myself into like, what if, you know?
Oh yeah.
And I couldn't. Okay. Anyways, definitely getting scatterbrained right here. So, what was that like going through with that? Because obviously there's a lot of emotional things. And what did you do for you to kind of ground yourself a little bit or have that release? Because you do have the psychology part and probably pre-counselor, but there had to be something you were doing for you to kind of help your own emotional state.
There probably should have been more, really and truly, at that point. I think, that was a point at which I learned about the concept of self-care that I wasn't doing. Because it was just like everything got really laser focused. Like taking care of baby, making sure she got to treatments, making sure she wasn't getting sick, not around people. My friends had all graduated from college, so they had dispersed around the country. So it was like I like to read and I like to take baths. And that was probably that was, and then at some point in there, I think I like had a total meltdown. And my ex at the time was like, you got to get out. Like you got to get out in the world. Right. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And so I didn't pick up any drastic hobbies or anything at that point, but at least I was like, okay, I gotta like find a friend, make a plan, get out of the house. And luckily it was a fairly like, as cancer goes, it was a fairly short stint. Like everything worked, a couple of major surgeries, chemotherapy, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time my ex graduated, we had plans. If everything was well, his parents were in Europe at that point, and they were going to fly us to Europe as like right before you move into the next part of your life. Hopefully cancer is over as planned, graduation's done, and knock on wood, everything went exactly as planned.
Oh, good.
Which is amazing. I mean, I always say I'm born under a lucky star, and so things can happen, right? Like nobody's life is perfect, but things do tend to work out.
They do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. And I think the self-care, it's really funny because I was going through some things at 21 too. Nothing like that. Right. But in your mind, it was the end of the world. Right. Whatever. But the self-care is something as, I think the difference between men and women, right? So I think women are more open to finding the help. Right. And I think reading the books and stuff, where guys are like, no, I'm fine. Let's just keep going, which was terrible.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, that was kind of the grooming of some bad things that happened later on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 I think, if we jump forward into my life a little bit, I went through a whole thing, and there's a video on it, and I believe you saw it. And most difficult thing I've ever done was to put that video out. Actually, the most difficult thing I've ever done was hit publish on YouTube.
Wow.
That was the part, because I made the video. I had to relive, trying to, kill myself essentially, and relive that entire moment of my life. Make this video, and then until you hit publish, is it really real? Do I have to do this? I don't have to. Of course, all those voices are going in your head, but you're like, no, I think people need to hear this, to know that those people are not alone. So hit that button, and it was just like, and go,
Yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a beautiful video. It's so raw and so vulnerable. And I appreciate you putting it out there because I think it's really relatable.
Well, thank you.
And also, I can't imagine being in your shoes and having to push that button.
Yeah, like we said, that was a pretty difficult moment. But yeah, I know that a lot of people have heard this before, but maybe some people don't. I'll put the link to that video in the description. It's called My Inner Monologue. But just a quick synopsis. After I hit that, 2 grown men calling me on the phone crying. The personal messages, the direct messages, the text messages that came out for that day that the video came out was overwhelming to me. And there was a point in the day to where my emotional meter was slammed red. And I was at my limit. And it was almost like I was doing a crisis counselor all day, and it's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say this. And I hear what you're going through, and it was tough. I came up here, I did a quick video like, hey, and I think I was even crying at the time. And I was just like, I've got to disconnect. I'm shutting my phone off. I need to decompress and everything. So I did all that. And I went back downstairs, turned on YouTube and watched something completely mindless for a while.
Yeah.
Just like, oh. And then the next day, you turn your phone on, back at it again, but it was more prepared. It was, hey, I'm hitting stuff. It was more prepared. It was more rested, more I expected now. So,
Mm-hmm.
Ay.
And I imagine you're still getting feedback on that video.
I am. It's not obviously as what it was when it first came out. I forget how many months it's been, but yeah, there's probably 1 or 2 messages a month that come up from that.
Yeah.
And they're all direct messages. Like, okay. And it's really weird that it opens, like Critter started it, right? He started his story, his journey. I make no qualms about it. I'm riding coattails, I guess. And that was the encouragement for me to do this. But it just opens up dialogue. And you as a counselor, I'm very interested in this because I need to learn more. Because as I'm entering this advocacy space, I'm starting to get messages. And it's like, okay, are you in crisis right now? Because if you are, I need to direct them somewhere else, right? And if they're not, and they're just asking for like, I don't even know what to call it, bro advice, you know, like, hey, I'm a dude and I'm struggling too. What do I do? And I try to answer those just as vulnerable as I can. But sometimes I'll go back and read and I'm like, oh, no, I shouldn't have said it like that. I should have said it like this. And that's part of the growing curve. So that's why I think like your profession and stuff, I'm very intrigued by, wanting to learn more.
And I also think you being there, your presence, your listening, your attunement means more than how you say things.
Again, I didn't even think about it that way. Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
I appreciate that very much. So we're in this topic now. So tell us about your counseling. I'm very interested to find out kind of, more of the details about you.
Yeah. Let's see. So I took a break. I taught Montessori, homeschooled my daughter. So we'll jump over that. And then I went back to counseling school. And counseling school is wonderful and amazing. And also it's like when you sort of like pull out your life and re-examine everything.
Okay.
Like, okay. So I went through a lot of drastic changes during that time. But I think, gosh, what to say? Like, finished graduate school, and what I learned is to never say I'm never going to do something. Because I graduated and full circle got a job in the criminal justice system, and it was like a dream come true because, like, obviously I'd had that long history of wanting to work in that system, but it was in a role that I wanted to be in. I was in a helping role. But what I had always thought was like, I just don't want to work with substance abuse because I don't have a history of substance abuse. Nobody in my family has challenges with substances. So I am not the right person. Like, I think that has to be a peer-to-peer thing. It never occurred to me working in the criminal justice system that was going to be a primary concern. And I was going to have to do some really, like, a lot of education quick. So I went back to school.
Okay.
And the program I was in was just, phenomenal. So it's a day treatment program. So we're pulling people from work release. We're pulling people from the community that have been released that are, they've committed some sort of crime. And somebody's like, maybe this person could get help either with mental health or substance abuse. So instead of being incarcerated, they're with us 6 hours a day.
Okay.
And I had the best mentor. My mentor was, he was a substance abuse counselor. And he's like, these guys did not get enough hugs in their childhood. So we're not allowed to hug clients, right? But the concept of like virtual hugging and like play was pivotal. So like we would do these 3-hour-long groups, and the first 2 hours, like we're like parenting, right? Like first 2 hours, we're going to talk about mental health, and you got to engage, and you got to do this. And the third hour, we're going to play games. And we had so much fun. Like I brought all my favorite board games. I started an art group for the program. Like it was so great. And so I did both. I was doing mental health. I was doing substance abuse. I was one of the few women that got to lead the men's group there, just because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. I don't know. It was really fun.
I love it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was an awesome job. And I like the learning curve about, gosh, I feel like I learned so much there. Just, I like connecting with people, and I like hearing people's stories, and it doesn't matter if there's similarities or differences. Like we have stories to share. We have connections to share. And it was, I don't know how to say it, because it was just like one of the best jobs I've ever had.
That is rad.
Yeah.
Yes, I like now we got to do this, and then we can play games.
Real life learning, right?
Oh, absolutely. What are we going to play today?
Exactly.
That's super rad sauce.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was great. And then I had a brief stint in just sort of a traditional counseling role, and then we moved down here. And I was looking for work, and I applied for a job. Again, said I'd probably never work with chronic pain because that seemed really hard.
Yeah. Okay.
So I applied for a job and meet the people, and I'm a people person. I'm like, I really like these people. So I get a job at this company whose specialty is chronic pain and brain injury, and they want me to like start a chronic pain program in Washington. So they're Beaverton based, and I'm in Vancouver.
Okay.
The program was in Vancouver, and so I'm like, sure.
Yeah, I can do that. Why not?
Yes, person. Like, so crash course in like, okay, what do I do with people who have chronic pain?
So they just hired you and said, and go.
Pretty much. I think they sent me to a 2-day training. They had somebody who was leaving, right?
And you're always well trained when somebody's already out the door. They're like, yeah, do this good enough. Okay, bye. You'll figure it out.
Exactly. But I agreed with their philosophy. What they said was, they were like, if we can find a good person, we can teach them about pain. Like, we need somebody who's passionate, who's interested, who's dedicated. And I'm like, yeah, I'm those things. I can do this.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I love it.
Yeah. And people with pain are still people. Yeah. Right. Like, and I guess learning like over the years, some of the fascinating things about pain is like emotional pain and physical pain run on the same neural pathways in our brain. Like same spots. Yeah, I know. And then like pleasure and pain run on the same pathways in our brain. So like the importance of pleasure in our lives is like part of self-care.
I accept that one fully.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Those are my favorite groups. Like, let's talk about what you like.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
I like motorcycles. I love pancakes.
Life is good.
I know. Let's keep going.
Yes.
Absolutely. So how long did that take you to get that clinic going?
It was like jump in and go. The program went through multiple iterations over time. Mm-hmm. And I would say within like 4 months, we were probably pretty full. We actually had to expand. Like we knocked down some walls, rented another space, grew. Like it was
progress.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was great. And I worked in that clinic right up until the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And stayed at the company. But of course, the pandemic, everything shut down. So I was doing counseling at home, which was, that wasn't my first taste of counseling because I work at BetterHelp as well. So
do you really?
Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah, I was like, I saw that on one of your podcasts, I think.
Yeah.
in your links. But yeah, so I've been doing online counseling in that format for a long time. Just as a like, what's this online counseling thing like? I don't know how to do it, so I want to learn.
Yeah, I think that is super awesome. In fact, not usually, I've been, ever since I got into that advocacy space, I've been putting at the end of the description, just, little saying like, hey, we're not alone, essentially. And then I leave them the link for that and also for Heads Up Guys.
Yeah.
So I just kind of put that down as just a resource for somebody to be like, oh, click. Mm-hmm. I hope at some point somebody who really needs it sees it and goes, clicks whichever one they want.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think that's I think that's super rad.
Yeah.
Because I've been wanting to learn a little bit more about them, actually, Mm-hmm. And just as, again, it's somebody that's the direct there. And then also, I'm not opposed to saying, like, I like therapy. Mm-hmm. The stuff that you can learn and the stuff that you get counseled on and just those little nuggets of knowledge that are thrown your way where you're like, oh, I'm going to put that right here in this toolbox. Mm-hmm. No, I'll think of your top shelf. I'm going to need you,
Stay handy.
Oh yeah. That's
yes.
super, super rad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just learning more. I love this.
So fun. Yes.
Absolutely. So we skipped over the Europe part.
Oh yeah.
But that's you've been all over the place. It's just your travels and everything. So I guess at some point, your ex, obviously, you go your separate ways. Mm-hmm. And then, were you riding motorcycles then, or was it until you met that other odd guy?
Yes. So, so I met Nathan back in, it was not a good game. Probably 2012.
Okay. You can think about it. I can edit it.
There we go. Yeah. And so we met camping, and he was actually living down here in Vancouver, Washington. I was up in Renton, Washington. Yeah. And we were both in Olympia camping. And so we had met exchanged numbers, said we'd get together. He came up for a weekend on his motorcycle. So that was my first time on a motorcycle. It was on the back of his bike.
I could just see Nathan right now, like, I'm going to go up meet this hot chick, and I'm riding my motorcycle. She's going to think I am cool.
And so I think he knew, we probably had touched on like life dream, right? Like
Yeah.
I grew up watching The Karate Kid and I loved those dirt bikes. And then,
Who didn't grow up on the Karate Kid?
I
Wax
know.
on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi.
yes. And then of course in high school, The Lost Boys, right? Star, long skirt, back of the motorcycle. That's how I pictured myself. He tells me I have to wear a helmet and a coat and pants and boots. I'm like,
You're
what?
like, all the gear all the time? What does this mean?
Where's my flowy skirt and long hair?
I love it.
But oh my God, like that was it. Like, I'm like, I love this. It was like, I don't know, 50 degrees, pouring rain, like all that. And I'm like, this is the most amazing thing. He's like, I can't believe she's saying that.
I'm dumbfounded at the moment. So he pulls up thinking, oh, I'm going to be Mr. Hotshot here on my bike. What kind of bike was it at the time?
He had an FC6R, so a sport bike.
Oh,
Yep. The look on your face. That was great.
so, okay. First of all, Nathan on a crotch rocket. Okay. I'm still trying to picture that one.
Right?
And then he takes you out on the back of that. Mm-hmm. That's got to be comfortable. Okay. So anyways, good job, Nate. Hey, it's raining. You want to go for a ride? and you liked it, too. I think that is, when you get on something and you just know, you're like, yep.
Yes.
I love it.
Yep. So yeah, I think it was not many weekends later when we went camping down this direction. We were in the Tillamook, and at the time he had a dirt bike and a quad. And
Okay. Phew.
so put me on a quad. And I think the only instruction really that I got was like, if the front end starts to come up, get out of the way. And so we meet up with a friend. We're all over Tillamook, going up these black diamond trails. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I feel the front end starting to come up. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just jump off. And the thing like rolls down this hill. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Survives. So the thing survives somehow. No front brakes. We're like, okay, well, that's the only problem. We'll get back to the truck.
So get out of the way. Just jump off.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's my one skill. I can jump off.
Yeah, why not? Ka-tunk. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
That is awesome. He was just like, all right.
Yes.
I guess we'll roll it back over.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm just going to say this for all the listeners because, I'm the guy, right? You're supposed to be the man card or whatever. I am like a cancer I've been called, right? So I am all intrigued about like love stories. And if you put like, I don't know, let's just call the movie Safe Haven. I'm getting popcorn, a blanket, and I'm going to watch that bad boy and a box of tissues, and I'll be happy at the end. I just probably lost some listeners. That's fine. Anyways, tell me about this. Like, because speaking for myself, okay, I know we're jumping around. We have to go back here in a little bit. But speaking for myself, when I first got into the ADV? I don't know, the ADV community, I really kind of started picking up on a lot of people. And you guys were, For the Love of Knobs page was one of the first pages I think I actually was like, oh, wow. Oh, and they're local. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about you guys at the time. And I was just kind of going through your page and stuff. And you guys put this persona on of just the happy-go-lucky, quirky, goofy couple. And I was like, awesome. And so that was my perception of you. And then for the first time I met you was at Giant Loop, and you guys got there late and stuff. And then like everybody's kind of rushing over, and I'm kind of like, for lack of a better term, a little starstruck, right? Oh. So I'm meeting like all these people that I've watched and stuff. And Critter and I were boys, and we had this amazing journey down there. And now it's like, no, me and everybody. And then, oh, the fans are here, right? And everybody's like, there was a buzz when you guys pulled in. So we're over there, and I just remember I'm just standing there. Hi, everybody. You know, kind of that awkward third guy out, if you will, even though there's like 20 of us there. But I remember being like, who are you? Oh, and it was just like, it was accepting very well. And then fast forward to the Critters event. I'm up there and I'm standing next to Nathan and we're just kind of saying hi and stuff. And he just like, whoop, goes down and just grabs my butt and he's like, hey. And I'm just like, okay. What they are is exactly what they are. I freaking love it. You know, I was so happy because every once in a while you meet somebody and you're like, oh, douchebag alert. Oh. My gosh. Okay. You know, and from my music background, I've been in some of those situations where you're like, you meet somebody you've just looked up to for so long, you know, like whole childhood, and you meet them and you're like, oh God, put any word you want in there. Just not a nice person, not a good human. Okay. And that kind of ruins it. And I was so happy you guys are just exactly what you are. Friggin' love it.
I don't know how to be any other way.
Why would you want to, right?
Right?
Oh my Lord. Okay. So we're all over the place.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's
it's the ADD.
I just did a podcast with Tall Man Moto, and that was all over the place. But I've got to tell you, a good training for this is my buddy Reed. Talking with Reed, like if you have a clock, right, 1 through 12 all the way around, and every number is a topic, Reed will go from noon to 6 to 9, back to noon, back to 6, 3, 1, back to 9, and then somehow at 11, it all ties back together, but it takes them 2.5 hours to get there.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hold on. My head hurts. How did we do this? So I get used to it.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to kind of go back because I really want to get into the motorcycle stuff, and it's like we're kind of there, and I'm kind of like, let's go back a little bit. So you were kind of gifted, if you will, the trip to Europe. So was that your first trip overseas then?
It was.
Yeah.
Yep.
And pretty eye-opening for you?
It was. Yeah. Actually, I am lying. That was my second trip because they had actually moved over there when our daughter was itty bitty.
Okay.
So we spent her first Christmas over there.
Oh, nice.
And that was, like getting to be in another country, like besides Canada and Mexico, which are sort of U.S. extended, right?
Right.
But yeah, no, it was really like the part I loved was the walking and the public transportation and the food. Oh, I love food.
So we're saying Europe, so that's a broad area.
Right. But they were stationed in France.
Okay. Oh, military family.
So Secret Service. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, it was really, I don't know, it was really, really cool. And they took us places, right? Like we're just two college kids who haven't done a lot. And yeah, so both of those trips, like we went to France, we got to see little parts, like Avignon was one of my favorite little tiny towns in France. It's very colorful.
I love it.
There's a kid's song about it. And we went to Switzerland and Great Britain were the three, or London, I guess, the three kind of places that we got to go. And since they lived there, they had friends, right? So we're not just like in Lyon, France. We're like visiting their friends in the country and getting to talk to people. And that's when I learned. I'm like, traveling to see big sites it's cool, but traveling and talking to people who live somewhere and they tell me about their life, like that's where it's at for me.
Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah.
I think that passion to find out about other people is exactly why we're sitting here right now.
Right.
Doing this podcast thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our jobs are very similar.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So Secret Service, Europe, visiting the actual homes of people. And I think one of my favorite things too is when I go somewhere kind of odd, which is not very broad, let's put it that way. But when I'm somewhere new, I like to people watch. Yeah. Very much. Mm-hmm. Rather it's just, sitting at a table at a restaurant or something, or, wandering around a little town. It's just always one of the favorite things to do. Mm-hmm. And you learn a lot about that little area.
Right.
Just how do people interact with one another?
Yeah.
I love that.
For sure.
Yeah. So then coming back stateside, I guess we have to fast forward now because we already got a little bit of the love story with Nate, right? So
Nathan. That's his preference. I know, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so Nathan. Sorry there, guy. So you guys went camping. I know we're all over the place, and that's how we get a roll. Right. So you guys go camping. And how long was it in this little love story where you're like, he's kind of different here? Well, obviously pulling up on a crotch rocket, that'll tell you something.
That'll tell you something.
Yeah. But, you know, camping and stuff, that tends to be a little different, and maybe a little bit even more of an intimate environment, if you will. Because you're kind of stuck out in the woods together, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say we got very close very quickly. And one of his favorite memories and stories to share is like, because, you know, when he visited me, I drink tea and he drinks coffee. And he's pretty like, he needs his coffee.
Okay.
So he visits me and I'm like, we're at day 2 and we're realizing he's not functional because there's no coffee in the house. So we go to Fred Meyer to get coffee and we spend like 3 hours giggling on the coffee aisle. I don't even remember if we ended up with coffee. Like there was really like just such good connection and chemistry. And we both, you know, we'd both had kids young. Yeah, we just, sometimes you just get along.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I understand that.
Yeah. And so, but we lived in 2 different places. So we were doing long distance.
Right.
So like I had my daughter every other week and he had at that point his daughter every other weekend. And so we were like managing that. So he would come up and visit on the weekends when I had my daughter and I'd go down there when he had his daughter. And so we got married. So we did that for 4 years and I got married when 3 years, I guess, when my daughter graduated high school.
Okay.
So she went off to college. I sold my condo there. We moved down to Hillsborough at the time. That's where his daughter was. And then his daughter chose to like do more of that 50-50. So she got the every other week, which was really fun.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just, yeah.
So I'm putting the timeline together. So you guys married 2016?
I think it was 14 because it's our 10th anniversary.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess, yay, public schools.
No, it's probably me because I'm like, 3 plus this. I guess we met in 2013 now.
Okay.
We can
Okay. There we go.
edit that back in.
Sure. Okay. That happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I love hearing those kinds of stories, you know. Be curious to have Nathan here and hear his side of the coffee exchange there.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you 2 can talk about music.
Oh, really?
Because that's his other jam. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he likes bass and guitar. And so he was in a band. And I'm a really good groupie. It's the only musical talent I have.
Okay.
So that was really fun. Because that was part of our weekends down here. He'd go to band practice and I'd dance. And it was great.
Wait a minute. I wonder if we've crossed paths before playing shows or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, we're going to have a conversation.
That's right.
For sure. Now I'm all curious. Wait, he was in a band? He went to band practice? So many questions all of a sudden for him. I can't wait. Right on. Yeah. So, okay. You've been on the back of the bike.
Right.
It was raining.
Right.
Okay. You rolled the
quad.
Rolled the quad down the hill. Was that the time you're like, all right, I want to do this?
I think I did one more quad ride. And then he had, his dirt bike was a YZ250. So kickstart 2-stroke.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to ride it.
Oh my.
So he like kickstarts it, or next to a picnic bench, right? Or something, tote, something at the campsite.
Yeah.
Like kickstarts it for me. I get on it. Like, don't know what I'm doing. He's like, just ease this hand out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Ease that hand out, roll on the throttle. And then I'm like, okay. And this is the brake. That's all I know.
Oh no.
So then I'm like, okay. And I go for a little bit and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to stop. And I stop and I don't know what to do. So I jump off because the thing's like 14 feet tall. And
yeah.
really
It's tall
small.
bike. Mm-hmm.
And so again,
you're like, I'm out.
so he's
I'm
like,
seeing the pattern here.
yeah. So he's like, okay, clearly we need to get you a bike. And I'm like, okay. So he like doesn't have a ton of use for a quad anyway, right? So sells the quad. We get a CRF 80.
Okay.
Like a little kid's bike. It was the first thing that we could find before the next weekend that we wanted to go out. that was like not too tall because that's all. It was probably too short.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so I maybe rode that. Like he's just trying to teach me throttle and clutch, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't do any lessons. I tell everybody go take a lesson. I don't do any of that. As a matter of fact, when I said I wanted to learn to ride motorcycles, he's like, I previously mentioned no hand-eye coordination, very clumsy.
Right.
He's like, let's start you on the dirt.
Okay, yeah.
So that is how we ended up with the CRF 80. So yeah, I did one little bit like staging area gravel road thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next weekend I did my first trail ride, right? Like
Yeah.
it was probably on 4x4 trails and it did not end well.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Like I think there was probably like 10 times Nathan's like, you got to slow down in the mud. Right. And I'm not going probably fast as a CRF 80, but I don't know what slow down means. Like, I just don't know. I know nothing about motorcycles yet. So you got to slow down in the mud. And I'm like, okay, I'm slowing down in the mud. Don't know what that means. Get into some mud, get cross-threaded.
Oh, yeah.
Like flips on me. And I've got like torn ACL.
Oh, no.
Right, like I'm like laying down screaming. He throws his YZ250 into the woods. Like it just rides itself off. He pulls this bike off me and I'm like, oh, I think I'm okay. Because as it turns out, torn ACLs don't actually hurt when they're not actively being torn. And so I'm like, oh, good, I'm okay. And I go to stand up and I fall down.
Yeah.
Luckily, we were with a lovely group of humans, one of who was also on a quad at that point. And he's like, I can give you a ride out of here. So, yeah, so that was my, like, day 2 of motorcycling.
Welcome to motorcycles.
Yes. And I was like, go see a doctor. Doctor was like, just the right doctor for me. He's like, 30% of these need surgery, 30% don't, and 30% could go either way. And I'm like, good. I'm one of those. I don't want to do surgery. I want to ride a motorcycle.
Right?
Yeah. So that's what I did. Much to the chagrin of my physical therapist, who's like, just stay off the bike because you keep hurting yourself. And I'm like,
No.
no. But unfortunately, at that point, I've developed major fear. Like,
Yeah.
this thing I wasn't scared of at all, like, is now like, I'm like shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been my big hurdle for the last 13 years or, like is just trying to overcome fear.
Well, that's a good thing to have on a motorcycle, though.
It's good to have a healthy respect. Yeah.
Healthy respect. I know. I crashed a very easy crash once upon a time. I was on a 2-track and I was on the left side. What was this year? Like 19, 20? I don't know. Somewhere in that little time frame that my memory can't recall at the moment. But I was up around Trout Lake up in Washington, and actually we just left there because they have some full throttle pancakes. I recommend going to the Trout Lake Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I was on a 2-track, and I was kind of ahead. I had Pancakes with me, and then the neighbor Dave, and we were just out doing our thing. And I was on the 2-track, and I was on the left side, and there's little bumps all the time, and little washouts or little mud puddles, and you just kind of give that little bit of throttle and kind of keep that front end up. Don't know really what happened, but one of them was off camber. So when I got on it a little bit, it threw me to the other track. No big deal.
Yeah.
Right? No big deal. But what it did is there was a hemlock tree coming out, just a little bit of the fluff.
Mm-hmm.
But right behind that, it hid the alder tree that was there. And it clipped my right side of my bar, and it took me right into the pucker brush, right into the woods there. And I went down and I watched the GoPro of it. I crossed over to the other side at about like 27. And by the time I realized what was going on and hitting the brakes, I was tipping over at 11.
Ooh.
That's a good stop, right?
Yeah. Well,
Right? No big deal. Well, the thing is, at the time, I had a GoPro mount on the front of my helmet, and it was the kind that strapped in.
mm-hmm.
And so look at it, if you're listening to this, it's like the GoPro mount is like a Y. So the bottom part actually came to a point.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening is the GoPro ripped off. I hit that alder branch as I was going down, or that alder tree as I was going down, and it rotated the GoPro mount underneath my helmet.
Oh, no.
But it took that pointed part to my chin.
Yeah.
And it forced it into my chin, and it exploded, essentially. I learned a new term. I did. It's called communicating, when you swish the water in your mouth to clear the blood out, and it comes out your chin. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's pretty rad. Yeah. I didn't know that at the time, and I just thought, yeah, I'll just go to the urgent care, no big deal, right? So Casey was like, I think you need to go to the ER. I'm like, no, I think I'm fine. I just need a couple stitches. We're fine. I'll just go to the urgent care. Mind you, she's like supervisor at a medical clinic and probably knows a lot more than I do. So anyways, yeah, I get down to the urgent care, and the PA looked at my chin. I was, yeah, I can stitch that up. Come on back. I'm like, cool. I'm thinking I'm in the good, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's looking at it, and they're cleaning it up and stuff. And I won't get too vulgar with it, but the young lady was making a lot of jokes cleaning that out, right? And then he comes back in, and he's like, well, there's a lot of forest in here. Like, yeah, I think so. You know? And next thing I know, he's trying to do something, and then he gets this look on his face, and he's like, I need to make a phone call. I'm like, okay. So he takes off. I'm texting with Casey at the time. And at this point, we're like on the phone, and he comes back in, and he starts talking medical jargon. I'm like, hold on here, speakerphone, right? Mm-hmm. So they're having this conversation now. It turns out I should have went to the ER. So he goes, you need to go to Emmanuel, to the trauma center. They have been notified that you're on the way. They have, you're in the traffic report. So if there's a line at the emergency counter, you go around and you tell them you're on traffic. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this just went from a couple stitches to now I'm going to the trauma center where there was surgeons and everything waiting for me there, So essentially, we'll take this into the Cliff Note versions here. I basically had 111 stitches inside and out.
Oh, my word.
To put it all back together. That's why I have this cool little mark right here.
Whoa.
And when I smile, it looks like I'm chewing because I had to put everything back and get it tight. And then about a week later, we're at my first grandbaby's first birthday. And I'm just like, it tastes horrible. And I'm like kind of playing with it. And I'm like, what's this green stuff here?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Casey was like, we're going back to the ER. So they had to cut me back open because it was infected. And at that point, nothing took. So it was just raw.
Oh.
So they had to open this up and clean everything out again and restitch everything. And it was neat.
That's one word for it. Yeah, my gosh.
Yeah, it was neat. So yeah, that was my little thing. And I remember getting back on the bike way too early, and riding. And in fact, I was still gauzed up. And before Nathan came up with the new Oregon BDR, we did the Oregon BDR Route 4, east to west. And we ended up doing that. And I just remember taking my gauze off, and it was super dusty and amazing. I was looking at it, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't be here right now. I can pull off right over here, go back to the pavement, and go home, but this is sure fun. Put more on there and think it was clean, and just trying to get your helmet to, like, you put your strap on just to figure out how is this going to hold the gauze here?
Oh,
perfect. Not the smartest, but I do remember at some point, I came around the corner and I was really timid. I didn't want to crash again. And I opened it up, and I just came around that corner, and that back tire kind of broke loose, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm back. That was the point where you got over that little hurdle there.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Wow, that was a tangent. So hi everybody. By the way, Kris Fant is in the studio today. So is that your worst crash with the ACL? Because we've all crashed a zillion times.
Yeah. Most of my crashes are at 0 miles an hour trying to put a foot down.
Oh yeah, we've all done that.
Yes. A few with, yeah. Mostly it's, and especially if there's an audience.
I was about to say the best times, and every time you're going to do that is when people are watching.
Absolutely.
Put your foot down in the hole, and you're like, we're going over.
Yep. So yeah, I think I spent a lot of years. Thank you for everybody in the Portland area who followed me at 4 miles an hour trying to go through Tillamook.
Yeah.
We called it dirt bike hiking. It's like real slow, real timid for years.
Dirt bike hiking.
Yeah. And then I'd get to, where everybody's standing and not be paying attention to my feet and drop the bike and be like,
It's so good. Especially those people who aren't watching, where they just like look over at you and you're like, what just happened?
yes.
Yep. People, I think when they ride with me, they just get used to me tipping over, because I'm always trying to do something, and I'm not the guy. I don't know if Nathan is this kind of style too. I kind of think we both are kind of the same thing, where we're just riding. We're like, okay, I'm going on that. Here we go. And you don't really think about it, and you just go.
Yes.
Sometimes you tip over, sometimes you make it through, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a playful game for him.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And he said something at Get Lost. He went down, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember him saying something. I was like, oh, you went down? Because I think he was doing something to his bike, and he was like showing his war scars or something that happened. And he's like, oh, I just tried to do a wheelie and did this. And I was like, oh, we are the same. We are the same.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Could be bad if we ride together.
It could be fun.
I think it'd be a blast. That might be one where Sean, he may not want to come on that one. He's very...
Yes.
I got to turn my turn signal on. Okay, we got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He just laughs at me. He's like... I think he rides up to something. He's like, Ian's going, yep, yeah, there he goes. Yep, definitely.
It was great. I listened to his episode with you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I am also a rule follower, but I'm the type of rule follower that I love it when somebody tells me not to, because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I could do that. It's just that my instinct is like to follow the rule. Like,
right?
It's there for a reason.
Oh, yeah. One of the best things in the world is what I call urban adventure riding. I'm jumping off the curb. I'll take that little sidewalk and jump over it. I'll ride a wheelie over the roundabout or whatever. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. You and Nathan are going to have fun.
Yeah. It's exciting. You mean Nathan? Oh, man. Okay, so how was it when you started like becoming more comfortable on a bike? Was there a moment, kind of like what I said, and I came around that corner, I was just like, okay, I'm back. Okay, good. Did you have a moment where you're like, oh, I think I'm getting the hang of this?
No.
No?
I mean, it has been very slow and very gradual and very, probably very tedious for those who ride with me. But
yeah.
I remember, so we graduated from the CRF 80 to this, so what is it, the 125, TTR 125. And
My son had one of those.
Yeah. And I do remember the day. So there was a day with that bike at Diamond Mill, not on the Black Diamond trails, but on like some of the easier trails where Nathan's daughter had a little quad for a while. And I was like, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm faster than her. I remember that. And our buddy Jordan had some like pimped out race 250. Like he's a racer, right? So
okay,
it's not your standard 250.
Yeah.
And for some reason he's like, you should get on it. And like finally, like I've been riding 3 years at this point. I'm like, oh, I think I can get on this tall bike. I'll just climb on this picnic bench, climbed on the tall bike. And I was doing like brake slides and throttle slides. And Nathan's like, I've never seen you ride like that. We should get you a faster bike. But I'm like, there's still the issue of like, I've never taken a class. I don't know about 1 foot down yet.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I have to be able to touch the ground. So we get the little KX 100.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be buried with that bike. I love that bike beyond all reason.
I'm still back where like, I had to get on the picnic table to get on the bike. I'm just like, oh my Lord. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know why people let me ride their bikes.
Hey, why not? Right. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in there, I did start riding on the street.
Okay.
I had always, of course, we wanted a crotch rocket, and history of like why Nathan had a crotch rocket. He's like, there are bikes for streets and bikes for dirt, and they try to combine them, and that's a terrible idea.
What?
So this is like what I have, come into. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So I have my dirt bike and I want a crotch rocket. I've always thought I wanted a crotch rocket. So been riding my dirt bike a little while. I got a Ninja 250.
Okay.
And the patient, amazing man that Nathan is, he took all of the plastics off for me. And then we would go down to the parking lot. I think I drove and he would ride it for me. And then I would like ride in the big Sam's parking lot every night after work until I could get to the endorsement class.
Yeah.
And I don't have any sense of my skill level. I really should have probably taken the beginner's class, but they have an intermediate one where you can skip all the like, here's how you let the clutch out and all that, right? So I just jump into this intermediate class on my own bike where it's not a tall bike, but for somebody who's never taken a class and doesn't know anything about 1 foot down, it was a tall bike. And somehow I passed that class. I still don't know how I got my endorsement. And the instructor's like, let's ride together for a little while. So we're riding home. And he leans over to Nathan at a stoplight and he's like, why is she so slow? It didn't matter, street or dirt. I'm just like tense and looking around all the time. Like I'm just freaked.
Hypersensitive.
Yes. Poor Nathan's like, I have no idea. We've been doing this for years now. No clue. But my goal was, that was like October-ish, because in May we were going to get married and we wanted to take a trip down the coastal highway and then back up the center of California. So I was going to go ride 4,000 miles. So I had to get this endorsement out of the way so I could ride a street bike 4,000 miles with no experience.
And that was here with Team Oregon?
We did it in Washington.
Okay.
So yeah, it was the MSF there.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like a t-shirt needs to be given to Nathan. There are bikes for street and those for dirt.
Yes. Oh, okay. But the irony.
Oh, irony. Okay.
Here's the irony. Like, I want to say it's 2 weeks before we take this 4,000-mile trip. He comes home with a KLR.
Of course. Of course. He combined him.
He's like, yeah. He's like, I sold my street bike. I want this. I'm like, but why? Like, for all the time I've known him, there's a rule. There's street bikes and dirt bikes. He's like, that just seemed like a good idea.
Oh, absolutely. I think we all have that moment because I know for me, I come from the kind of the cruiser world, first part on the road, right? Please, nobody judge me for that. But I know I was like on a Harley one day, especially, and I just was way up in the mountains. I love the woods. I mean, that's like my happy place. I love gravel roads. I love trails. I love the dirt bikes and everything growing up. And I was just up there one day, and I was just kind of looking around of like, where's that road go? Where's that road go? Mm-hmm. And that was my like mental, hello, dual sport world, adventure world, right? That was the moment where I was really like, I ended up taking a right turn down a gravel road on a Harley. And
as you do,
probably wasn't the best thing because it's all chromed out and like ting ting ting. I'm like, oh man, that's not good. But turning around and coming back, and it was just like, no. And then that was very quickly, hello adventure world. Yeah. That once I got onto an adventure bike, done. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just the world is your playground, literally. And I went out for a ride the other day, and I had you think about this every once in a while, and I think everybody does, but I just went up through Lodi, however you want to say it, whatever. And I did just the quick loop around there, and oh my gosh, that place is devastated right now. Like, we had a windstorm, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's trees down everywhere on the main road getting to the staging area. Like, bad.
Oh, wow.
And they just went up there, like, maybe the day or two before I was there and cut the trees out. But it was like a zigzag trying to get through there. And plus, you're familiar with it up there. Oh. That road is terrible now.
I mean, it's great if you're on an adventure bike. Not if you're in a car.
Even that, it's getting too fast on that. Some of those are getting so big. And then every once in a while, somebody comes out of the woods out of nowhere. Yeah. And you're like, hey, dude, that's why we stop and look. But anyway, I went up there and I made that loop to come out the backside. Just whatever. Cool. Just get out of the house for a little bit and I was just riding there and I'm like, man, all the roads lead to gravel. And I was like, wait, no, all roads do lead to gravel. And I was like getting excited. And then I get back on the pavement. I'm like, this road leads to gravel. That road leads to gravel. I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's happening right now. I freaking love it.
That's awesome.
And a little bit of snow.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's that time of year.
It's supposed to be a light winter. Didn't happen.
Oh, I think it did though.
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we got some late snow, but I've been up and over these mountain passes a lot this year, and I was just like, well, I'm at Pass. Yeah. I was going over that like a month, 6 weeks ago. There's nothing at the top.
Oh, wow.
Like maybe a foot, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was just like, oh my Lord, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, moving back. So you're starting to ride slow. You have a 4,000 mile trip. Nathan would ride a naked 250 to a parking lot for you. And he's getting a t-shirt. Nathan. And how was that trip? It sounds like your first
amazing.
like legit trip.
Yeah, that was our first honeymoon adventure, we call it. And we try to do a honeymoon adventure every year.
Adventure?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes. And oh my gosh, I feel like I learned a ton because, there's 1,000 curves on that highway. And, at the beginning of the trip, the RVs are passing me. But it felt like it came together. Like I felt like I finally understood a little bit better about riding motorcycles.
Did you start in Astoria?
We started, right on the coast, just south of Astoria.
Okay.
Yeah, right around Kennet Beach.
Okay.
Baker Newport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
things I didn't know about motorcycles before I started riding. It's like the smells. And then you're like riding down the coast and I'm like, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I know the San Francisco smell. But if you start in Oregon and ride all the way down, the coast smells different.
Yeah.
All the way down.
That makes a lot of sense.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really, really fun. And we did hotels. We weren't camping that trip. But that was the trip where I was like, I'm going to get an ADV bike was born. Because there was some spot coming back. We were near Shasta somewhere. Nathan, and we're parked. Like we stop, we get a snack, and there's a gravel road. And he's like, I'm going to go see what's at the end of that. And I'm on a 250, and I'm like, I mean, to be fair, I did take it on the Lost Coast Highway.
Yeah.
So I'm like, literally, have you been on the Lost Coast Highway?
It's awesome.
It's so great. But it's, it's potholed and there's patches of gravel and all that. And so I started out and I'm like, this is really scary. And by the end of it, I'm like standing up on the 250 like it's a dirt bike. I like literally rattled the muffler off of the bike because that road is so
kidding.
bad. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So yeah, between that and watching him go down somewhere I couldn't go because it was like a steep gravel road, I was like, well, when this bike is paid off.
Yeah, and I'm sure he went down it pretty slow and cautious. And
Always.
not spit gravel or anything like that. No.
Always. Yeah. Actually, he probably came back to the top. And my favorite thing about the KLR was being on the back with a camera. Because it rides like a Willys Jeep, right? Like, chunk, 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 chunk. It's really fun. Yeah. And then I would just like take pictures of stuff. So he'd come back and get me. Like, I don't ride on the back of bikes, but on that one, he would like come back and get me. And he's like, oh yeah, you got to see what's down here. So I leave my bike, hop on his bike, go take pictures, come back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is super cool.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. Okay. So part of doing podcasts with me is I have squirrel moments, and I'm having one right now.
Squirrel?
Yeah, squirrel. So my youngest son cycles, or used to cycle anyways, and he was on teams around here, and he was like very, very good. And it didn't turn out, but we would watch like the Tour de France and stuff. And one of the things watching these like classic races and the tours, and all of these is the guys that are doing the filming and the bikes. If you watch those guys, it's like next level. You have the guy driving, he's doing everything. Meanwhile, the guy's on the back standing up with a full-size camera.
Whoa.
And I'm like, okay, what?
Yeah.
He's literally standing up, filming, while his back is to the guy going forward. And what are they talking about? Like, hey, gentle left turn coming up. Right. Hey, I've got to gun it a little bit. They're catching us. It's
Whoa.
like, Man, it's crazy to watch.
That's amazing.
Sidebar. Okay.
Yes. Well, and I've totally done that too. Sat backwards on the motorcycle filming while Nathan rides.
Oh, yeah. See, I think that would be cool.
It's fun.
Yeah. I will do like when I go out and do a lot of filming, I have like 2 tripods with me. These 2 right here. And I will do that. I will put a camera on backwards and just let it film.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, those are cool shots.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely rad. So that was your first real adventure of, hey, this is rad. So you said, once this is paid off, I'm going to get something else. And what was that?
An XT225.
An XT225.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good bike.
Great bike. I love that bike.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How long did you have that for?
I probably had it a year or so. And then I took a short trip into the BMW land and unfortunately had a lemon. And so I had this lemon BMW that died a week before we were supposed to do a big trip to Utah.
Oh, no.
And the guy who bought my XT225, listed it on Craigslist that night. So I had my old XT225 back the next day for our trip to Utah.
You're like, I'll take it.
So then I had
Welcome
it for
home,
another
girl.
3 weeks.
Yeah. So just long enough to do the trip, and
Just
you're like, all
long enough to
right,
do the trip,
kicking it down the.
I think I almost died 4 times on that trip because the bike is so underpowered. So if you're on a highway in Nevada and the speed limit is 70 and there's a downhill, and you're like, oh, I'm keeping up with traffic. I'm going like 80. But then if a speed wobble develops, it turns out you have no more throttle to get you out of the speed wobble.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So there's this long downhill. Nathan's behind me, in front of him, I don't know. And I'm like, and he's like, I'm just going to dial 911 in case this all goes sideways. And tank slapper, right? Like I just like relax and let the handlebars slap the tank and breathe. And eventually the bike decides to put itself back where it's supposed to be. We get off at the next exit and I'm like,
oh my gosh. I'm sitting here listening to you talk about it. I'm just like, anxiety through the roof all of a sudden.
So like I have very few useful fear responses, but the freeze response has saved my life in a couple spots. Because I was like,
my.
I'm so scared. There's literally like all my brain is like, there's nothing I can do that's helpful here. Like, so there was a couple there, that, and I remember trying to pass a truck. Right, like look at my truck driving in front here. And somehow, like, so I don't make it quite on the downhill, and then as we get to the uphill, the truck is now overtaking me, and there's a van coming towards us, and so I'm on the yellow line, lane splitting between a semi and a van. So we get to our next stop at that point, and Nathan's like, we're going to go back and get you a different bike.
Yeah, we're going to get you something with some power.
Yeah, so that's when I got my DR650, and that XT has been in the family. Like, seems to keep getting sold to friends, which makes me really happy because then I can go visit it, and it comes back to our house for maintenance.
Oh my gosh.
I love that bike, but it was terrifying.
I'm trying to figure out, like, as a trucker, man, I would be like, I guess I'm jaking her down, let her in front of me, or oh my gosh, it happened so quick too,
so fast. Like I had no idea. I didn't have the power to make it around, like because I'm just overly optimistic.
Oh boy,
yeah,
that happened.
Yeah,
I've never been into something like that in that kind of a situation. Oh my gosh. Right. So you had a lemon Starbucks. You had a lemon Starbucks Cruiser.
Oh, that was very Freudian.
I was gonna say because Sean's bike just had an issue.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I didn't heard.
Well, you have to go watch my latest video. We broke the GSA.
We'll do that.
Yeah, it ended up having some issues, but I learned there's a known fact to help fix those, and I was actually curious if you did that. So I heard when they're not running correctly, you have to pour Starbucks all over them. And that somehow gets in the system, and it's like, oh, we're good again.
That fix must have come out after I returned my bike. I didn't know about that one.
That must have been the other ECM upgraded fix, I guess. Yes. I like giving Sean some shit about that. It's all right.
As you should.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually really surprised, you You're getting a lemon with one of those.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be like
It was a G650 GS. So that particular era.
chain driven.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of, unfortunately, I think there was just an issue.
Yeah.
And so I knew a number of lemons, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah. So they only made that bike for a year, maybe 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The F650 is solid.
Yeah.
F750, 700, 750, all those. Good. But that particular one, I was like, yeah. Learned a lot.
There you go.
The night it broke, we were somewhere, near Scappoose, like practicing for our big Utah trip. And Nathan's like, okay, stay here. I promise I'll be back for you. And so I'm like, it's dark. I'm cold. I'm in my helmet to stay warm. And I'm hearing coyotes. I'm like, can coyotes kill you? I can't remember.
Oh, my Lord. Just more fun for you. Just more fun.
It was great.
Yeah. A little sign of things to come on that trip, right?
Right, yes.
Beware the speed wobble. Oh, God. That is wild.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do your trip. Come back. Get the new bike.
Yes.
Now you have the bug,
Oh.
right? Mm-hmm. Well, now I have to go back to Utah. Like, where did you go before we moved there?
Utah.
Oh, I
God,
know.
I love Utah.
Right?
Yeah. So it was pretty funny because I'm the planner. And so, we hadn't done a lot of BDRing yet, right? Like it was on my radar. We had done a little bit of Washington, but not a ton. And I was like planning all these things I wanted to see. And Nathan's like, this trip is about the off-road for me. It was like a week before this is in the same time that my bike is breaking. And I was like, oh, I didn't plan very much off-road. So I go back and I'm like, how do I see everything we want to see and do all the off-roading? And so we had the best, like we went through Nevada and entered Utah on dirt, right? So,
Yeah.
and hit all the southern parks, took the little ferry across Bullfrog.
Oh, cool.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to do that. I didn't. But
Yeah, super, because it's so tiny, right?
Yeah.
It's so great. And then there's a park right across from there. I don't remember which Arches, I think, is right there. might
Is
be
it
a different
Arches?
one. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's so many, I mix them up. So we did that whole like southern parks, and then we went up to Moab, and that was the year that.
Arches in Moab.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's a different one. Yeah. Canyon. No, it's not that one.
Bryce Canyon, Zion is down there. I can't remember which one that.
Tiny one down there.
Yeah.
It's not going to come to me. But yeah, Motos in Moab was that year. Big motorcycle rally, mostly cruisers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was an experience. My favorite part was they had like, I don't even know how much brush and stuff, like all piled up and lit it on fire the first night. And so like the first night is just riding bikes around this giant bonfire that's like 4 stories tall. I don't know why they're not allowed to hold it there anymore.
Yeah, no idea.
Nope.
No idea.
And then from there, we picked up the Utah BDR, and wow, it was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely love Utah. The riding down there is amazing. The scenery down there is amazing. Did you go through Bryce Canyon?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I stayed, I did a solo. That was in 2018. I did a solo trip, and I stayed right outside the park. Mm-hmm. And I woke up super early because I can't ever sleep in. And I was in the park before 6 a.m.
Oh.
And nobody at the guard shack, but road's wide open. I'm like, I got my pass, mm-hmm. right? So it's not like I'm stealing or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. It just was going to show them my little card anyways.
Right.
So I went in and I stopped there at the Point of Inspiration real quick. I think that's the name of it. Inspiration Point. Check that out. It was cool. But I was like, everybody's going to come here first. I'm going to ride all the way down to the end. And then I'll come backwards against everybody, and I would have seen everything by the time they get there. Mm-hmm. Perfect. So I'll never forget, there was this point where it's 45, and I was absolutely doing the speed limit.
Always.
Uh-huh. And I came, and I was on a Yamaha FJ09, and so the RPMs at 45 are a little bit high, right? So you hear you coming, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember I came around this long sweeping right-hand corner into a straightaway. And I'm kind of coming around and I'm looking down the straightaway, and I'm like easing on the throttle a little bit to 45 miles an hour. And there was a parking lot on the left side. And there was one car there. And it was like, I look over and it was like the wife was walking away to whatever. And the guy was like, back to her, looking at me with his hands in his pocket, shaking his head, yes. And I was just like, I think that sums up my day right there. Yes.
Yes.
It was amazing.
That is awesome.
I love Utah. My dad and I went to Moab, and I love it over there.
Yeah,
So
I feel
fun.
like Bryce Canyon is what inspired that trip for me. Because way back when I was working in the criminal justice system, I used to do this art group, and I found a picture of Bryce Canyon.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go there. Like, that was my one bucket list item in this world. It's so amazing.
And pictures don't do it justice.
No.
When you're standing there amongst everything, you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I always have to put my place, back. Like, could you imagine, like, I'm not really discovering because the Indians have been around, but like coming over on a wagon train or something and taking a detour, and you come up on something like that.
Right?
You're like, I'm sorry, what? What's going on here?
Yes.
Aliens made this.
Right.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Did you guys do the, what is it, the Grand Staircase, the Escalante?
We may have dipped in there a little bit, but we spent some time doing the White Rim Trail.
Oh, yeah.
So that was really cool.
Well, that's all the way up
All the way in
at,
Canyonlands.
yeah, that's up in the Moab area.
Right.
But getting from, like, essentially, you would go, I think, from Zion to, I'm trying to think exactly. Anyways, it's Highway 12,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
and it goes up to Torrey, and you're up
Yes.
on that.
Oh,
Yeah, it's amazing.
that was the best pavement.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get that it's not curvy, but that was amazing.
Well, there's some curves on it.
There were some curves. Yeah.
Because when you come in from Torrey,
Yeah.
I remember on my trip, I made that corner, and it had one of those giant construction signs, and it said windy road for the next 112 miles. And you're like, okay, let's go. And I wasn't doing like YouTube or Instagram or anything. Man, I sure wish I was, because that would have been an epic trip. But I was just like, okay, let's go. And that trip, I had zero plans. Yeah. Like, I remember I came over this one highway over Beaver, and I went over the mountains on, I think it's 152, Highway 152, but it's mostly gravel going up and over the top. Get back down to highway whatever, and I was heading south, and this was literally my thought here. I'm riding. Oh, there's a sign. What's it say? Oh, National Park, left. Okay. Turn left, and it was like 100 miles. It's just like that was it.
Yep.
I'll just go over here. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got down there, you hit the Utah BDR, and this is before you guys were involved, right? Mm-hmm. Man, that's rad.
Yeah.
That is definitely one of my bucket lists, is to hit that one.
Yes. I want to go back because since we started in Moab, we missed, thank goodness, now that I know, but we missed the Lockhart. Is that what it's called? Lockhart Basin?
Let's just say yes.
Okay. Sometimes names escape me or mismatch.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that advanced section, I'm like, it's good now that I know, I'm like, I'm glad we missed it, but now I want to go back and do it because I could do it now.
Well, yeah. And that, the sand in Utah is not the sand in California or Oregon or wherever else. It's just different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember, I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, Matt's Off-Road something.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And they did an episode where they were talking about the Utah sand and put it under a microscope. Oh. And so it's different. So like the regular sand is jagged and kind of binds together. These are like smooth little tiny like balls, essentially.
No way.
So they're just, it moves different, it feels different, and that's why it's quote unquote more slick.
Interesting.
Just because it's not all rugged and sticking together.
Very interesting. Yeah, because I was like surprised by the slick rock, where I had the idea that it would be something like its name, which it was not. It's the opposite.
Right.
Right. It's just super grippy.
Super grippy.
Yeah.
I think that's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys went there, and then did you connect and keep going north?
So from there, we actually turned back and went through Idaho because that was the end, kind of the end of our 2 weeks. Yeah.
So you're kind of just wheeling back to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Nathan got a job offer at the little the motorcycle store there because I'm on a 225 and there's a lot of elevation change. So every time we changed elevations, he would like just change out the needle in my carb so the bike would run better.
Oh my gosh.
So they were like, "You look like you know what you're doing. Do you want a job?"
You're like,
And he's like, I'm like, yes, we want to move to Utah. This is great.
yes, please. Yes, I am totally down.
Yes.
I will take that. Yeah, there's parts of this country that I've been through where I think we live in like the best area. Like, sorry folks, but we've got it all right here. We've got the coast, we've got the mountains, we've got the desert, we've got the Alvord, and frankly, I think that whole like Burns, Hines, Southeast Oregon riding, I think is only comparable to Moab.
Right.
And both are pretty epic, for sure.
Yeah.
The Stains just, bam, hi, how you doing? It's just, it's amazing down there. So there's places that I go through and I'm like, I could live down here for like maybe a year, 2 years just to experience it, but I know I'd come back. You know?
Yeah.
It's whatever. Don't move to Oregon. It sucks. Nothing to see here, kids.
Still let people come on the sunny days and they want to live here, right?
Yeah, right.
This is the girl from California. So,
Yeah, it rains from June, what? Well, it's from September to June. Yeah,
pretty much.
there we go. That's why you don't want to move here, kids. Stay away. Nothing to see here. The Alvord Desert, it's terrible. It is the worst area to see in your life. The Steens Mountains are... I've seen deserts look better. Oh, that's rad. Yes. So coming back home, now you have the bug.
Yes.
Now you're like, you know what? I kind of want to do more of this. So what was the conversation like? Were you like, that was amazing, I want to reminisce? Or were you chomping at the bit to be like, okay, now where? Let's do more.
Let's do all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Where are we going? I don't care. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not, like, timeline-wise, I don't remember, but sometime not very far after that, we started training for the Southern California BDR. That was, because I was not a confident sand rider, because I grew up as a 35-year-old. I grew up riding in Tillamook.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
So we did a lot of trips to Bend to try to get me ready, because we watched, I don't know, those BDR documentaries, right?
Right.
Watched that Southern California one over and over and over, and I'd be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And then I'd go to Bend and crash and crash and crash.
Getting better.
Yeah.
Speed your friend, right?
Speed is your friend. Just enough speed, not too much speed. Eventually, you're going to run out of speed, right?
Yeah, right.
There's like that balance, and I tend to be on the low side of that balance, but needed to get higher. But man, we did the California BDR, like that first section, which is, it took them forever to film. We were done with section 1 and Indian Pass Road and the deep gravelly sand by like 10 a.m. We're in that next town, and we're like, lunch? Like it went, so like all the practice paid off. Like I didn't crash. Nathan got a video and he's like, I could barely get it. You were going so fast.
Oh, that's awesome though.
It was great.
Yeah, that's got to be a feel-good moment for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And it was funny because, the hills right after. Have you done the Southern California?
No, I have not.
So like in the movie, they spent quite a bit of time in Indian Pass Road, and then there's these hills afterwards. And I'd watched the movie so much that I felt like I was like riding the same lines. And then I got to a spot where I'm like, I don't recognize this. And I just stopped. I was like, my brain didn't know what to do at that point.
You're like, my film work is done right here. Right?
Yes. But I guess I'm going to have to figure out how to keep going. It's not hard. It's just my brain just was like, you haven't seen this before, so therefore we stop.
Yeah, they edited that part out.
Yes.
Yeah. That's wild, though. That's pretty cool, though, that you're just like, I think I'm right in the right line. And that just gives you that little bit of confidence, too. Sure. You're just like, all right, yeah, we're good. And it's funny you talk about that, the speed coming through sand, because I tend to be a little too much heavy-handed at times, but I've always told people when you're in the sand, there's a fine line between absolutely in control and completely out of control.
Yes.
And you just got to let the bike dance, and you just got to be loose, and then you're like, ooh, okay, we got it.
Yes.
Every once in a while you just have those moments, and don't let off the throttle.
Right.
That's the best way to kiss the sand with your face.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
My dad, Pancakes, he's 74 now. and he hates the sand. And it's one of those things where he is at almost a dead stop and walks himself through it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's totally,
And that works.
yeah, that's just another way to go through it.
So we tell people, like, either you ride the sand or don't go faster than you can walk. Because I
Yeah.
see a lot of people like faster than they can walk with feet down. I'm like, that's a good way. Like, my knees hurt when I see it because it's just such a good way to tear an ACL.
Or get a peg in the back of your calf.
Or that.
If your foot gets caught on something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I'm going to stay away from that one. Oh, man. So you ride learning to speak here. So you ride the Southern Cal. And how far up did you go the whole thing? Oh, man.
Yeah. Ended in Benton. They have a hot spring there.
Oh, boy.
Most magical place because every campsite has their own tub. And you're just surrounded by, like, is it Eastern Sierras? And I don't even know. Like, they're just mountains, and you're just sitting there at sunset, watching the sun go down, sunrise.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, yeah.
It's such a good way to wrap it up, like, to be like, huh, I did a thing.
Oh, yeah. I did a thing. Yeah, cool. Oh, my gosh. That is friggin' rad.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that was really, so it's sometime in between there, I had gotten somewhat involved in the women's moto community.
Mm-hmm.
I think early on, do you know Steph Javons? Is that familiar? So she's from England, and so I'm starting out my writing career. It's kind of before all, like, there wasn't as much social media then, so I'm on Thumper Talk. And
You're on what?
Thumper Talk. Do you remember this?
Not at all.
Oh, so Thumper Talk is like bulletin boards for motorcyclists.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Bringing me knowledge I didn't know.
Right?
Yeah.
And Steph Javons is like on an XT 250 or 225. She's going to take off, or CRF 250. Sorry. She's going to ride around the world. And I'm struggling, right? I'm going 4 miles an hour in the woods every day. And I'm riding with men all the time and having the thought, like, what if it's because I'm a girl? Like, I know it's not. Like, I'm a feminist. I'm educated in psychology, but still.
Right. Yeah.
What if it's because I'm a girl? So I'm like, I need some female role models. And I find her. And I was like, when you get to Oregon, come stay with us.
Yeah.
And so, like, I am following her around the globe, and I'm getting better. And she's like, I'm finding more female role models. And in the interim, I meet some people who are starting, like, kind of an online magazine that's not active right now, but could be again, called Women ADV Riders. And so I get involved with that because they were like, we're looking for somebody to write. And I'm like, well, I can write about all the mistakes I make in the garage. And they're like, sure. And so there's just a lot of interesting opportunities that are like for somebody who's not a great writer, who's just trying to figure it all out. But I'm still like, there's all these interesting opportunities happening. So we do the Southern California BDR. And Nathan is like so inspired at that point. Like, he's like, I love BDR. Like, they make magic. Ron West has like reached out to me on Instagram at the end of this and been like, let's get a beer. I want to hear how you think, what you thought of this route, right? Like, Ron West, and he's like, in our mind, he's a movie star because I've watched his movie 100 times. And Nathan's like, I want to get involved with BDR.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is great because, like, I am doing all these interesting things in the motorcycle community. He got me into the motorcycle community. Like, this will be great for him. But it's like he and I are so close that there's rarely just a him, right? Like,
right, yeah.
He came to my first Torque Wenches meetup, which was like an all women's group. Like, here we are, we're going to do BDR stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come with you to like wherever you go. So we're even very quickly both ambassadors for the backcountry discovery routes.
I think that's super awesome.
Yeah.
So that's how it all came about.
That's how it all came about. It's just like that massive inspiration. And he's like, and why doesn't Oregon have one? Because we don't know any of this backstory yet about like why Oregon doesn't have one.
Why doesn't Oregon have
or
one?
why they have 5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was my thing because people started talking about the BDRs and you start looking at all the ones and then you get into Oregon and you're like, what?
Right.
What's going on here? Right. So the quote unquote OG ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a couple, I think, that were Jeepers that originally made a bunch of these routes across Oregon and they were going to maintain them and there were signs and everything. And then, I don't know, things went sideways. They had to take all the signs down, but these still exist. Like, they were still selling the routes and the maps. They were selling the maps. I'm trying to remember. I think you can get a GPS track from them after you get the maps. But the maps, have you done? You have these, right?
Well, I'm trying to think because my dad, so again, I think my dad and I are a lot like you and Nathan. We like I'm the guy that is just like, I'm going left. Let's go. I hope there's gas down here. We'll be fine. I see something down there. And I think it has to do with a lot of the trucking. I am so like specific. I need to come here, whatever. But when I get out on the bike, I'm just like, whatever. But my dad is very much we're going to pee here. And we're going to pass 18 little pebbles. And then we're going to make a right. You know, like very specific on everywhere that we go. Which is also really good because he'll be like, I'll take you to somewhere cool that I would have just went, just cruise right by. And you're like, oh, I totally would have missed this. This is amazing. And he is like Mr. like Oregon historian, I guess.
Oh, cool.
So he'll be like, we've literally done that. Hey, you see that up on the hill over there? Yeah. You see where that kind of looks like an old road right there? And well, that's part of the Oregon Trail, and this happened here. And you're like, this is rad.
That's so cool.
You know, stuff you'd be like, I wonder what that was. You know, you keep going.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of funny. Like, well, I'm the planner, you know, so I that keeps coming into my mind. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's okay.
Yep.
That's good. So, but getting to that, it was like, yeah, we did that Route 4, and I believe my dad was the one that reached out and was like, trying to get the maps. I think he had a GPX file maybe sent. I can't remember, but he's also the guy he's retired. So he's like, click, 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 make my own route.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, they used to mail you like a stack of spiral bound maps, which are great if you're in a Jeep.
Right.
Not so great if you have to pull them out of your side bag and the motorcycle every.
We did have that. I remember he had multiple on his tank bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but yeah. So there was no Oregon BDR for a long time because I think there was a lot of like, we want to make sure we maintain good relations with people who have already established things. And I think, and there was something here, right? It wasn't maybe what the BDR would do. It's not maintained in the same way.
Right.
And when we say maintained, it's not like we're out maintaining roads, but we're keeping up on what's going on. And if things close, we make a new route and things like that. So, but there was at least something for a long time.
Right.
But the most popular question, like literally the BDR ever got was like, when are you going to do Oregon?
Yeah.
Forever. So yeah, eventually they did do Oregon.
Well, yeah. Who did Oregon though? Whose brainchild was the Oregon one?
Oh yes. I remember, that year at Tour Tech after our trip, because that was one of our honeymoon adventures, I think. Anyway, ended up at Tour Tech and he's just like, I'm starting to work on an Oregon BDR. And they had been like scoping it out, working on it, scouting it, having ideas for a long time. So they're like, okay, you got some enthusiasm. Let's get you connected with the right people. And you live there, because they didn't have anybody living in Oregon that was like willing to kind of take it on. So they connected him with Bryce Stevens, who's the co-architect of that route. And he had done so much work in Southern Oregon. And Dave, whose last name I just forgot, but they had done a lot of scouting down there.
Yeah.
And got Nathan connected, and he started, we just started scouting. Like, it would be like he would go with those guys, and then we would spend all of our weekends, like, truck the bike somewhere that's too far to ride if we're going to actually scout, and then you scout, and then you truck home.
Right.
And, it's like March to October. I remember camping, in 20-degree weather.
Oh, no kidding.
A couple of times, just being like, well, we got to scout an area, so.
Man, so on those scouts, how many times was it where this is going to work, and then you get in there and you're like, nope, we got to do something else here?
A lot of times it's like both will work. And so you're trying to decide which is better. Like, are we taking this long detour because we just like dirt, or are we taking this long detour because there's a magnificent view?
Right.
Right. So you want to do the long detours that have magnificent views. You don't necessarily want to add a bunch of just, we're just riding on a gravel road for fun. Right.
Yeah.
So lots of things will work, but then the big thing that'll happen is fires come through.
Yeah.
Weather happens, private land. And so you have something that works, and then all of a sudden it no longer works. So it's like a new scouting weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
So the private land stuff, how did you just stop and be like, well, private land, we're going to have to go around? Or were there phone calls like, hey, what do you think about if we did this?
Always go around.
Yeah.
Because whoever owns that land right now, if it's private land, somebody else could own it in the future.
Right.
And we're trying to build, I think, routes that'll live in perpetuity. Even if we know there's going to be changes, there's no reason to take that kind of risk. Like,
right.
And you don't want, Yeah. You don't want to send people on people's private land.
Right. Yeah. I would be weirded out.
Yeah.
But it was just a question.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious because, I use Gaia and I have the private land on, which 90% of the time is correct. And every once in a while you're like, open up the gate, shut the gate, open the gate, shut the gate, open the gate, shut the gate. And all of a sudden it's like no trespassing. You're like, wait a minute. No signs anywhere until right now. By the way, there's our house.
Yep. Like, oh, that was a driveway. Oops.
Yeah, there was one time, we'll get back to this, but there was one time we were going through a gate with the neighbor Dave. And actually it was, I think, at the end of the Route 4 that we did, which we actually had to break up into 2 years because of some weather. It came in the first year, and it was the point where it was going to start getting really out in the wilderness. Not the woods, but the wilderness part of it. And it was... Eastern Oregon, and that little talcum powder when it gets wet, and we were all just like, if it starts getting that inch of rain we're supposed to get tomorrow, probably not fun to be way out there. So we bagged it and we came back. So the next year we finished early. I mean, we screamed through that thing, and my dad was like, okay, let's make a route wherever you want. And I was like, yes. So I'm just picking routes, and I picked this one route. We were going through all the gates, and we're all on comms, and Dave goes out. I'm waiting for my dad because I'm shutting a gate, and then there's another gate. And that's, again, your first telltale sign where they're really close. But Dave was like, on comms real quiet. He's like, guys, hurry the F up now. We're on private property, and here's the people right here. Hurry up, hurry up. And we're like, what? So he's like... don't stop, just go and don't stop. And we're like, you're trying not to look, you're just kind of going, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Didn't know.
Nope.
There's no signs anywhere.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what do? You just ride respectfully through their area. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah.
So the southern part is really cool. And then the Heart Mountain, what's going on there? Is that gate's closed now, right?
Is it?
Well, I've heard a couple of people that the part going through Heart Mountain is the gate's been closed or a new gate is up or something. Yeah. I haven't ridden it yet. Yeah. So. Yeah,
and I'm a little behind. I don't know what else is going on in Oregon.
Yeah.
Like, I've done a ton of scouting. There's a couple of, like, I haven't done the black sand section down south, kind of in the center, and then I haven't done, is it Heart Mountain? There's one section I haven't done, so I may not get to, I hear.
I've watched so many videos on people doing that.
Yeah.
It might have been Ben's Dork in the Roads video.
Okay.
It's something about Heart Mountain being closed. Like I said, I've seen so many. I'm trying to figure out exactly which one. But it was closed, and I remember another video I was watching it, and I believe that was actually Overlanders that were doing that. They both came up to the Heart Mountain area. And it's like, we got to go around.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I love, like, they have both, like, information on the website, so downloading the freshest track is going to get you through without having to run into stuff like that.
Good to
know.
Then
the Facebook groups. There's, like, Facebook groups for each of those routes for people who do Facebook, and that's super helpful, because then if something recently has changed or there's been a fire or anything like that, it's usually in the groups really quickly.
Oh, that's good. I didn't know. I have Facebook. I don't use Facebook, so it might be worth doing, because I think that's on the list this year. One of the routes to do.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to hook that straight to the Wobber.
Nice.
Just doing both.
Nice.
Should be pretty rad.
Yeah.
So how was that when everything got done? It seemed like a whirlwind, right?
Yeah.
And I know Nathan was a big part of that, right? Yeah. But I remember you talking at Giant Loop kind of about what you just said. You're out there camping on the other weekends, and you have to do this, have to do that, trying to learn the bikes and such. But it seems like when that got done, and then you guys, were you part of the filming process?
Not for that one, no.
Not for that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Nathan was out on his own. He actually did 2 trips in a row, because he did it with Sterling, just like helping with the laying out the photography and videography spots, and then turned around like the next day and started it with the expedition team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And that's what that happened with the California one with you guys too, right? Didn't you ride it twice?
We did a lot of scouting, but we didn't ride that one twice in a row.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to that one here in a minute. But I remember, unfortunately, my schedule was like wherever you guys were premiering something, it was just like I was somewhere else. I was like, of course. So I had to wait for it to drop on the old YouTubes for me to actually watch it.
Yes.
Which I would have liked the experience to be with everybody.
Right.
But at the same point, I was like, there's nobody here to bother me right now. Everybody
true.
just shh. And I think I sat down and I cracked the beer open. I just and go.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I was lucky to have seen it a little bit before him because at the first 3 or 4 premieres, I think I was like selling T-shirts. I was like out at the BDR booth, and I'm really glad I had already seen it because that's his big moment, right? Like introducing the route to the people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was so happy for him.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was following it on the socials and stuff. I was just like,
Yeah.
It
is.
And actually, I think I was coming through. Wasn't there one in like northern Washington, like Anacortes or something up there? Mm-hmm. And I remember I was coming through actually out of Canada. I just left Critter's house. And I think I was, again, a day behind or a day ahead or something.
Right.
And I was just like, of course. Of course,
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So that, selling the T-shirts, I mean, it seemed like that was a huge hit.
It was. Oregon is, I think it's been really popular. It's so rewarding, right, to hear everybody's trip reports. Like, what went well? What didn't go well? What would you change? Like, and there's not a lot you can change about Southern Oregon. It's sand and rocks and tiny towns. And oh my gosh, the stories about, like, was it Plush where the gas, like, for a while the gas wasn't working. And so the locals, like, went and got gas for our riders.
Oh, did they really? I didn't know that.
Gas there until the pump got fixed. It was like...
That is super cool.
Talk about support from a community. And that's, I feel like we know, like, we're bringing those great economic impacts. But then you see stuff like that and you're like, oh, yeah, this is valuable. This is helpful.
Yeah.
This is what these communities need.
That's a great little town.
Oh, it's
yeah.
It's
such great. I think them doing that too, especially, I mean, that's their own dime.
Right.
Bringing that in. And I wonder I would be curious to see, like you just said, the economic impact.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder what that is from the stores to the restaurant.
They do.
Do they have one?
They do studies on that. I think last was 60 million in a year into small towns that are on the BDRs.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Whoa.
It's huge.
I had no idea the number was that high.
Yeah.
60 million.
Yeah. It is incredible.
Okay, I'm dumbfounded at that number. That is, yay, ADV and overland communities.
Right?
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, that's rad.
Yeah.
And then after all that kind of settles down, the old other BDR starts rearing its head.
Right. Yes.
So what was your involvement with, was it just the Northern California route, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know anything about that route.
Oh,
I just know it goes by Lassen.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yes.
And
yeah. So, yeah, gosh, even while Oregon was happening, we had a couple I think it was mostly Nathan, had a couple scouting trips down in NorCal as well.
Busy dude.
He is a busy dude.
Good job.
Those things
Nathan.
And not dissimilar from Oregon. Like, you get a route all planned out and then there's a fire and you're like, oh, that may or may not be available when we go to release this route.
Right.
So that was fun. But I got to join for a couple of scouting trips and I got to be, it was pretty funny because we've had a couple of catastrophes on those trips where like bike catastrophes, nothing major, right? Like
bike catastrophe. We're getting T-shirts for days off of this episode.
So I don't remember all the details, but I do remember like leaving Nathan at a rancher's house and like riding to get a U-Haul, packing my bike in the U-Haul, riding back because his bike is broken, picking up his bike, and then we drive all night to get home.
Oh my gosh.
The cool part about that was, right, like we're just stranded on the side of the road with a broken bike, and this rancher drives up on his quad. Y'all okay? Kind of, but not really. So like we limp the bike back to his property. They hang out while I go do all this. They're just, drinking beer, talking about BDR. A piece that you don't get to see in the film is we come back and we get to camp on that rancher's property with the whole crew. And they get to be a part of like bringing to fruition what they saw in the making.
That's
It's
so
super
cool.
Like, obviously, we don't want to send a bunch of people to private property, so we didn't.
Right.
But
Right.
just that whole, like, they're part of our community now. Like,
I love it.
So cool. Yeah.
It's the hospitality.
Yeah.
That's
for
super
sure.
cool. I thought it was going to go the other way. This guy pulled up, pulling the wing out of his, belly button. Like, hey, boy, you want to stay here? Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad I went the other way.
It went well. Yes.
Yeah. Way more gooder.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I might have heard through a couple birdies on my deck outside that you guys were filming down there last summer.
We did. We got to film down there.
Yep.
Yes.
And I was like, you don't know this. I'm like, I don't know nothing. It's fine. I don't know anything that's going on and blah, 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 blah. But I was super excited. And then I noticed, I believe you guys kind of went radio silent there for a minute. I was like, because I was like kind of trying to be nosy. And so I'm going to check out, your socials or whatever. And there's like nothing. I'm like, all right, I see how it is, So obviously a good little deal. And Sterling did that one again too, right?
He did.
Yeah, that guy he's okay.
Yeah.
He's all right. Never mind. So what was that like? Like after everything got kind of done and the route's now created, and now you're talking about, I guess, pre-production meetings on how it's going to be filmed and getting your timeline set and everybody's schedules lining up. Was Nathan kind of like, yeah, you go ride this one, or is he kind of like?
So that is all BDR. Like they decide who's in the films. So there's always like, they have certain people that have to be there, like, parts of their crew need to be able to promote the route. So that's their job. And then there's always like BMW and Zero. We're both sponsors for California. So they each get to send a rider and a bike. We had actually 2 Zero electric motorcycles on the NorCal BDR, which is super cool. And they had asked me to be a guest rider. They try to, have women in the film, and sometimes like the manufacturers will send women, sometimes they don't. So that was, and since I helped work on the route, they were like, Kris,
That's
come be in this
awesome.
movie. And I'm like, okay.
How was that? Like, did they call you or send you an email or something? Or were you just like, yes, this is awesome?
Yes.
It's okay if you were giddy. I totally would have been. I would have been running around outside like, oh my gosh.
That's funny because I have that mixture of like, that's really exciting. And also similar to what I said to you, where I'm like so I'm an only child. I'm comfortable with attention, but I don't have any need for attention. And so like, I have almost a like, I want to give that to somebody else whenever possible. So there's a little bit of a push-pull, like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And also, is it okay? Am I the right person for this? Like,
Right.
this is a big project and it's for the community. Like, I don't, like that's what matters is that this is that I'm the right fit. And it was wonderful. So they asked me, and then they had to switch filming dates multiple times. So they originally were going to film in July. They're like, snowpack's too high. As a matter of fact, Nathan and I did a scouting trip in July to finalize some things and ran into snow twice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So then they had moved it to September and something came up and they had to move it to the end of September. Sorry, microphone. First week in October.
Totally okay.
I talk with my hands. And because they moved it that last time, they had somebody all lined up for support truck and then they didn't. So they just sent out a message on the ambassador portal, like, we need a support truck driver, like somebody who can take 2 weeks off to do this for us. And right. Yeah. Well, next time we know.
This guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Nathan was like, do you think I should do that? And I'm like, I mean, it's your time off. Like, that's a big commitment. Totally up to you.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, I'll offer, see if anybody else wants to do it too. And they were like, absolutely. Like, because he's done the route before. Like, he's done a release before, a film, like a whole expedition. So he knows kind of what's needed.
Right.
So that's actually really helpful, as it turns out, for a support truck driver. Is he like had a list of things that we should have, and when you get to see the movie, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's really good that he had chain links and tools and this and that and a spare bike, and like, because all those things were used in the film.
I can't wait. We're what, 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away now?
Yeah, a couple weeks it depends which one you're going to, but yeah.
The one here in town, I think.
Yeah, there's Ironman 4x4 and 4x4s in 2 weeks. There's 2 others. Moto courses in a couple weeks.
The one at Cascade Moto.
Cascade Moto.
Yeah.
3 weeks. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was so cool. Like just getting to be there, getting to be a part of the project. The piece that I really didn't expect is like the team. Like these are people that you know and you work with on stuff, right? Like it's very focused. And yes, we're focused. We're on a film project, but when you're with each other 24/7, like you really get to know people. You get to have these other conversations.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what are their struggles? How do they respond to fear, to sadness, or tragedy, or like joy? So
Deep conversations.
like the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been some fireside chats.
Yeah.
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 Those are the best.
Yeah.
What's with the fire word? People are just like, I am an open book.
Yes.
Ask me anything. It's fine.
Totally.
100%.
Yep.
Absolutely. So how long did you said 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but the filming was,
It was about 9 days. Yeah.
how many times were you like, we have to write that again?
Well, that would be such a bummer, but they do such a good job. That's why Sterling pre-rides it.
Yeah.
Where it's literally the way they have it set up is you ride, like essentially you let the film crew go for 4 minutes and then you just ride and you have another waypoint where you stop. So you're just riding through the shot and then you stop and wait. And so turn around and do it again is super rare unless you're doing some sort of random side trip. Like I think Ina and I and maybe a couple other people took off with Sterling. There was we'd split the groups into one group was doing the advanced section, one group was doing the main route. And so for that one, we did decouple because it was like, oh, we can move. We only have one videographer and we can actually move the shot and just ride it again. And
Right.
But for the most part, there's no U-turns, which aren't, my arch nemesis. I've heard you talk about your U-turn practice and I'm like, yes, I need to be
over
doing
there
that too. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like a well-oiled machine. You just go through and.
See, that's really fascinating to me because I've been doing this whole thing for such a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. So before I got into any of this, I had no idea. Settings on a camera? Oh, yeah. Huh? What, factory settings aren't good? Mm-hmm. I'll just, yeah. And so I think for me, learning kind of behind the scenes and trying to film stuff, right? And I'm not Sterling. Nobody is, right? Yeah. But watching his stuff and trying to be like, that's a really creative shot, mm-hmm. right? And trying to be more aware of the creativity aspect of shots, and then last year, Critter and I, we took this shot with 3 cameras and a drone, or 2 cameras and a drone. And I think we were there for an hour and a half. Just like, what do you think of this, dude? Yeah, let's do this, and put the drone up. And then we rewrote it, I think, maybe 3 times. Because, of course, we don't see a car for hours and hours and hours. Mm-hmm. And, of course, everything's going, and right as you go, here comes a car. Totally. And you're like, all right. But we literally, we had that. It was an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And I put it in my video, and it was like 4 or 5 seconds.
Right.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, yes. That has been the big eye opener.
Right. And it's so worth it though, because you're just like, wow, okay, that was rad. Mm-hmm. And then it's nice because I think sometimes when you're doing something and you're riding with somebody who's trying to make a video, you got to have the right person with you, mm-hmm. who's patient. And my dad and Sean are really good at it. And especially, like Critter and all those other people like that. But sometimes you ride with somebody and they're like, dude, no. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's super nice just to have that patience of like, hold on. I have an idea. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, here he goes again. Okay, now what do you want us to do?
Yes. I think that's why YouTubers ride together. We get
so.
it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like you get comfortable with just, we're in public with random cameras going on, filming some weird, like you guys, when you went to Critters, your guys' video, you're at, when you went to the Coho, mm-hmm. and then you guys walked over and got ice cream. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys filmed that. That's like a part of a trip. People to be like, who aren't comfortable with it. I don't want to look like, a YouTuber or whatever.
That's me. That's my inner conflict. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't care. Somebody gives me crap. I'm like, you want to be in the video?
Yes.
It'll be okay.
Yes.
So anyways, so you had a couple routes where they went different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So you maybe rewrite a couple times. And then was there any time where you're just like, that's going to be rad? That shot's going to be rad for sure.
Good question. Let me think about that. I mean, it's all so beautiful there. I guess I'll answer your question different than that. Because
Okay.
what strikes me on the movies, this happened in Oregon too, is what they capture with the drone.
Yes.
Because you're riding along and you're like, yes, this is beautiful when you're in it. And you have these like rocks around you. And then they fly the drone and you realize like the rock has another side to it that gives it a whole new level of drama.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Those are the shots that really astound me. I love like just getting to see the after product. I'm the worst YouTuber because I don't really actually watch YouTube. Like if it's a friend, I'll be like, oh, I want to like your video, right? I'm like, oh, I like this person. I want to hear their video. So
Yeah.
I'll do that one. And then I forget about YouTube for a while. And then like Amanda will come out with something. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I want to
she's
catch
great.
up with Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah. What's she cooking today?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just not a really I don't have a lot of ideas from watching YouTube. And Nathan's the opposite. Like he watches a lot of YouTube. He learns so much. Like he knows an amazing amount of stuff from watching YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he and I are just out filming together, you have the option of being the videographer or the talent. Like I don't particularly want to be the talent because I don't consider myself terribly talented, but I'm also not really geeky about the videographer stuff.
So you're just like, yeah, there you go.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I've learned a ton from him where he's very patiently like with the real camera. He taught me all the camera settings because he had a video idea he wanted to do and he was going to be the talent. And it was very fun. And it was also like a lot for my brain. And I have like notes. I still have it on my phone where I'm like, the F means this. And but we had so much fun. I realized how much I've been trying to internalize, like when I went up to Critters event. And Nathan had an idea for a video he wanted to do. We recruited Ladle Sport to ride with us.
Yeah.
And I was then the videographer. And I was like, okay. I have a sense now of like, I want to capture something in the foreground and something in the background and have the rider ride through the shot. I'm like, these are things I never would have thought of before. This is so cool.
It's exciting, right?
Yeah. So it does come together. It's fun, but
Yeah, it really does. I love when you come up with an idea like that and you film it and you're like, I hope this works.
yes.
And then you edit it
Yeah.
and you're like, yes.
Nailed it.
Okay, that was it.
Yeah.
I love the creativity part of it.
Nice.
Yeah. So you're the note taker and stuff. So it seems like you're kind of falling a little bit for the behind the camera stuff, but you do great on camera as well. So you're batting 1,000 on both sides.
No, thanks.
I think one thing that draws people to you guys' channel and to like you and stuff, it's just everybody's authentic.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
You truly are getting you.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes I'm over the top sometimes on my videos. I totally understand that. And sometimes I get going and I just talk like this and I'm going really fast and I'm just like, oh, you know, and I'm just like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I am just going to go with it, you know? And so, and sometimes people will just look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going. It's fine. I'm just
awesome.
being a dork. You know, we can't laugh at ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So I am, like I said, I am super stoked to watch this video. And then I guess a question I can't believe I'm actually going to bring this into a podcast. Somebody asked me, what's it like working with Sterling?
Oh,
Probably pretty rad. So I don't know. You know, somebody like that, he's just the epitome of what every other YouTuber wants to be.
mm-hmm.
You know, just the cinematography that he does and just the eye that he has, you know. It's just not something that you can just be like, that's me.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
Yeah. He's an artist, right?
Yeah.
Like he feels like a lovely down to earth human when you're with him. And also he has a vision.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been he's very grounded, very like, you know, you're going to get through this. Like, I don't even know. Like, he's easy to work with. Very, very good rider. You know, he's riding his jeans and boots.
Yeah, right.
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 You'll get to see he had a little incident in this particular route. You'll get to see in the movie.
Yeah, he put a video out about that.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he's just a lovely human. And I mean, there's him, Michael Bilecki, Cameron Sale is our drone operator, and he is like literally, if there was a nicest human on the planet award, he would get it.
Really?
He's the
Nice.
nicest human on the planet.
I love it.
And then Eli Whitty's the photographer, and he's an artist, and he definitely prefers one side of the camera, and it is not in front of the lens.
Right, yeah.
So just like that team is really, really amazing.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's working with a good group of people.
Yeah.
You know, that makes everything more gooder for sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll put, when this comes out, yeah, we'll put some links down for all of that. But I think the premieres and stuff will still be going on when this comes out. So we'll do what we can.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk Revit.
Revit.
Yay! So I do weird things. My research is amazing. Okay. Like, if you don't know me, you're about to be like completely impressed by the way that I research things. For example, right? Two things that I did. One, let's talk Zoleo for a minute, right? So it was like, am I going Garmin InReach or am I going Zoleo? I don't know. I'm starting to maybe think about getting one of those. Here we are again out on Route 4, the BDR, right? I pull up next to the neighbor Dave on his KTM 690, and he has a Zoleo, like, zip tied to his handlebar. And I'm like, dude, how do you like that? And he looks at me and goes, I effing love it. I think I had one bought within the day, right? As soon as I had service, Amazon, bring it. That was my amazing research on that. I'm a Revit guy. Mm-hmm. I wear Revit. My research on it was, Itchy Boots wears it. Must be good.
Yep.
There we go. That was my research.
I love it.
Yeah, it was. It was either that or Climb, and I just ended up buying that, and I was like, that Climb stuff is, a little spendy, but I like this, and I love that stuff.
Nice.
Absolutely. So I'm okay talking about it. So you are I want to say an ambassador, but it's more than an ambassador, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I think we're ambassadors, and I'm on the Revit women's team. So it's kind of a subgroup of their ambassadors.
That's rad.
Yeah.
And how did that come about?
So back when I was working in that sort of online magazine, they essentially were advertising for like Revit for women writers. So they did a nationwide search. I don't know if they essentially you apply.
Okay.
And I had applied the first year, but I was pretty new to all of that at that point. So then, and I was like, didn't expect anything to happen, and it didn't. But the second year it did. So I was like selected for this smaller group of people, and they call you up, and they're looking for people like Itchy Boots, right? Who are traveling around the world, who look like they're really using the gear, but they're also looking for people who are active in their community. They want the people out there who are going to answer the messages on Instagram about like, what jacket should I get? And you don't have to say Revit. You should say like, what works for you? What's your budget?
Right.
What are you looking for in a jacket? So what are those people that are like doing that and doing trainings? Like I do trainings in the community. I do skills days at the house. Like I go to events. Like they want people who are active, because those people are out there just being people in their gear.
Right.
And so when they talk to me, I'm just me, right? I don't know how to be anybody else. And then I am on the Revit women's team. And so one of the things I used to do is get all the girls together and do a trip. It's grown enough, and the pandemic happened, so we haven't done a trip for a hot minute with all of us. Mm-hmm. But that next year, then we all went to Canada, and it was so cool. Like we got to go ride. We were up near Whistler, so it wasn't a long trip. We did 2 or 3 days of led by a guy up there who's doing tours, and saw some amazing, beautiful things. We went on a ferry that was like pulled across the river by hand. Stayed in the Tamarack. No, that's down in California. Stayed in the lodge. It's me and names. I should like write all these things down. But stayed in this really cool lodge up there off of Carpenter Lake, and there's a guy there who ran a helicopter company, and he had a helicopter outside, and he's like, what are y'all doing up here? I ride motorcycles. And we're like, we ride motorcycles too. We get to talking, and he's like, "You want to go for a helicopter ride?"
Yeah, yes.
That was my first helicopter and only so far helicopter ride. But it's just like, again, the community is so cool. So
That is rad.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you're obviously still currently doing that.
Still a Revit Women's Team Ambassador. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And just, yeah, like I get messages on Instagram. They ask gear questions, they ask bike questions. And like, yeah, I like to help. This is
That's
great.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, when I was looking at the Revit stuff, I knew that's where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to justify the price point that I was looking at. Right.
Yep.
You know, like, what do you need $600, $800, whatever pants?
Yes.
Because hello, you know.
Because before Revit, you had something else.
I did. So I went from field shear to Revit.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing against.
Yeah, Sedici.
Yeah. Nothing against that stuff. I just broke some ribs.
Oh.
Yeah. Another fun story right there, right?
Oh.
So my dad and I were, again, he's with me every time I have a bad crash.
There's a pattern here.
Yeah. No. We were riding actually a part of the Barlow Trail.
Oh, yeah.
So the lower section of the Barlow,
Mm-hmm.
we were just riding. It was like, I hate to say it, was doing the same thing. A little throttle going over. And, man, the back end just came out from under me and just threw me on the ground. And it must have been pretty cool because we're on the comms again. So, like, I'm on the ground trying to catch my breath, but all my dad hears is because the wind is completely knocked out of me and I'm trying to suck air back in, right? And I'm moving around the bike. My windscreen is off. The bike is over on its side, all this stuff. And he's like, oh, you hit hard. You hit hard. We got to take you in or something. And I'm like, I knew something felt wrong, but at the same time, I was like, just hit the ground, no big deal. Well, moving around wasn't the easiest, so we decided we got to build. Well, we're way out, so I forget how far we had to go over bumps and trails and stuff and gravel to get back to a paved road, which is, what is it? Is that Road 48 that goes from Highway 35 to Walmack?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So sections of that aren't exactly the best, so I think we were closer to Walmack than we were anything. So I remember I had to ride back like 111 miles, I want to say, back to the urgent care. And all the way there, it was total dad, little kid. Like, I'm riding there and I'm like, I think I'm doing fine. I'm going to go. No, you're going to the doctor. I'm like, no, I think I'm doing fine, because it was in October, like 1 or 2 days before Thanksgiving. And so all that cold air is just blowing through my jacket.
Yeah.
And it was just like throwing ice on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm fine. And he's like, you're just going to go. I'm like, okay, Dad. Okay, Dad. Whatever. So again, I call Casey and I'm like, hey, everything's fine, which happens to be every time I crash and call her, everything's fine is when things are not fine. Mm-hmm. So she's learned that. But I remember going and pulling up again. I should have went to the emergency room, but I was like, I'm just going to urgent care. Mm-hmm. And I put my kickstand down. I'm totally fine. And then I get off the bike, and you remember the Carol Burnett show where that guy walks really weird and slow and drags his feet? That was me.
Oh, dear.
Like, as soon as my leg came over the top of the bike, I was like, something's wrong.
Oh, dear.
Something's wrong. So I broke like a bunch of ribs in the back. I think 4 completely and then 2 partially. It was rad.
Like nothing they can do, right?
No, it was amazing.
Oh.
And so that night I come home, Casey's trying to put me to bed, right? And I'm trying to be macho guy. She's like, you need to take an oxy. And I'm like, I'm not taking that stuff. I'm fine, right? And so we're having this argument. And so she's making the bed for me. She's trying to put me in bed. And it's like, the more I'm trying to get into a resting position, which was not laying down. I mean, we had like every pillow in the house on the bed at that point, so I could sleep essentially, sitting up, right? And so as she's putting me down, the worse it hurts. And so the more it hurts, she starts giggling. So she starts giggling, makes me laugh, which makes it hurt worse, which makes her laugh harder. And we're in this vicious cycle.
Oh, no.
And we're just both, I am like tears coming down and stuff. Miserable night. miserable night. And then night 2, I was like, fine, I'll take one of those stupid things. Slept like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I told you. Whatever. So, so yes. So shortly after that, especially I think right when I bought the AT-AT, my Africa Twin, that's when I was like, yeah, I'm making a change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started going down. I bought the H2O Sand. And, I had to match Nathan. Oh my gosh.
Twinsies.
Nathan. Yeah, I think, actually I didn't realize we had the same jacket until, I don't know if I saw it on Instagram or I saw him over, I don't know, Giant Loop or maybe Critters event. I was like, oh my God, we're twinsies. Like for sure. Yeah. Our pants, he has a matching pants, but they're black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went full on matchies.
Nice.
It's all right. Super. I'm in the market for some new stuff too. Just trying to figure that out. I don't know what I'm going to buy. It'll be Revit. I just don't know which.
Are you looking for like warm weather gear, cold weather gear?
No, I think more equivalent to what I have there. Maybe Four Season or something. But, maybe a couple too many beers and ice cream. So I need to kind of pop some pants in a little bigger size maybe.
They really need elastic waistbands.
For reals. So with that being said, what kind of Revit gear would you recommend? More of the female, maybe more of a novice female, or just in general, what's the best stuff that you like?
I love the sand. Like, I love that whole suit. You may not know this, but women really love pockets. I think we've been denied pockets for many years.
Oh, yeah. You guys have those weird pockets in the jeans that go like a half an inch. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of this?
Yes, not designed by women.
Right.
So the Sand 4 has these giant cargo pockets where I can put everything. And, literally, like, I like to take my coat off, leave it somewhere, and put everything in my pockets and know that I have my keys and my wallet and my phone and all that stuff with me. So I love the Sand 4. It's got that brilliant, that mesh zipper. So you can do a mesh zipper or a full zipper, depending on if it's hot or cold. But that wouldn't work if I was going like somewhere really hot, right? Like, it's good up to in the 90s. And then once it's above 90, I use their Dirt Series stuff. So they have a mesh jacket that's really light.
Nice.
Wish they would add a back protector. It's really designed to be worn over like a bodysuit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, again, like, I like to take my jacket off and leave it.
Right.
So I'm not the bodysuit type. So, those are my favorites. And then they have a new, like, really nice, if you're an all year rider, all winter, all season rider, they have a really nice new waterproof suit called the Lamina, which is, I got an early demo of. It's like super nice in the winter because we've had a lot more rain this winter than expected.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah, like just days.
Hence today.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this last weekend, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, are we in Oz? The wind is blowing so hard and the rain is coming through the window that's open. Okay, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty wild stuff. Well, that's pretty cool. I really like the sand stuff, and that's all I really know. And I'm that guy that's learning that in the super hot, I'm zipping everything up, I'm closing all the vents and everything, and letting it kind of let my sweat take over.
Yeah.
I'm finding that's a little. I think when I have the vents down, I'm actually hotter because it's blowing all that sweat away, which people are like, well, that's what you want. But I'm kind of like, I feel hotter. So I'm zipping everything up, and I'm like, it's okay to sweat. That's fine. I'll just drink more water, which I have the Usui pack on, and I'm always sucking down the water. Holy moly. Even in the winter.
Yep.
I'm always having that thing on. People are like, dude, what? All the time? I'm like, However, I have a really bad habit of leaving that stuff.
Oh, no.
I have went through, so this Usui bag, I've almost left a couple times. And in fact, Sean and I went on our little yurtcation, I will. And we're leaving this like restaurant. And he's like, hey, you want to take that? Yes, I do. Oh, boy. And 2 Camelbacks. I've just lost. Like, one of them, it wasn't too far away. It was up Addy Road, and I think You know, when you're going up there and you're going towards High Rock and you go through that little area where there's that little lake and it's always coming across the road. Well, I stopped in there one time just for a few minutes and I took that off and I was like, oh, no. I left it on the back of the bike and I just must have just, whook.
Yep.
So it was like immediately went back up there. It was gone. I was like, well, somebody got a cool thing. By the way, you have my spare keys. So if you can mail that back to me, that'd be great.
Keep the backpack. Give me the keys.
I know. It just says Honda on it. That would be amazing if you could just, send it. Anyways.
Oh, dear. Yes.
That's crazy. So you guys have done some international riding.
Very little, but yes.
Very little.
Yes, this was our first trip. We just this year
Was it
went
really?
to Belize.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd gone to Egypt a few years ago, but did not do any motorcycle riding, and I think that would be a trip. It would be huge.
We're going to go back to Egypt here in a minute.
Okay.
We're going back right there.
Yes.
Hold that thought. Hold my beer for a minute.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into Belize for a minute because I live vicariously through you guys, right? So I'm like, I didn't know you guys were going or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, they're going where? And I believe it was your story one morning. I woke up and I went through your story and you did the whole classic PDX carpet thing, and I was like, where's she going? Sorry, what? I was like, this is going to be rad. Yeah. So how did a trip like that pop up? Was it just like some friends are going, or were you just like, were you on the forefront of like, let's go?
Yeah, we initiated this one. So two things happened. One was we met Emma, who owns Alternate Adventures down there. She rents motorcycles and she has Crash Pad, which is a hostel.
Rad.
So we met her.
I love the name.
I know, right?
That's rad.
It's so great. It says rad on the side of the building. Turns out people in Belize don't use that word. They're like, what?
What did you say? Rad?
Yeah,
it's rad.
It's rad.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met her. We went over to visit our friend Kirsten. Emma was on her front porch, got to talking, heard about her business. We're like, oh, we should do that someday. But it's sort of like filed in the back of our brains.
Right.
And then last year, my parents had a 55th wedding anniversary. So we
Whoa.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
So they wanted to take us all on a cruise, like me and kids and all that. And so we went out of New Orleans and visited a bunch of islands. And I was like, oh my God, we got to get out of that town every winter. Because like, that's the time to travel. In the summer, it's beautiful here. Why are we getting out of town in summer?
Exactly. Right.
So in the back of my head still, we were talking about Belize, and we'd fallen in love with Roatan, this little island while we were there. And I messaged Emma and I'm like, I'm in love with Roatan. And she says, come to Belize. I'll make you fall in love.
Oh, famous last words. Here we go.
Right?
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Nathan, you want to go to Belize next winter? I mean, who says no?
Right.
We're like,
Right.
we should take some friends. So we drummed up a whole, I think we had 7 people plus Emma, our, lovely tour guide.
I love it.
And we all flew to Belize, rented motorcycles, and the country's a third of the size of Oregon. So I feel like we got to see almost all the good stuff.
Oh, wow.
You could go back and see almost all the good stuff again and have it be totally different. Because there's just I think there's 4 paved roads, right?
Oh, darn.
I know.
Yeah, it breaks my heart.
It's so hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's
So-
terrible. I'm sure Nathan really was disappointed with that.
It's rough,
Yeah.
And she's got all of her bikes are there, either Leafan 250s or I rode a CRF 150 or XR 150, whatever, the Honda.
Yeah.
So she's got really little dual sports, which is all you need there. It's really funny because you'll see like 3 or 4 street bikes, like sport bikes in the country, and you hear them. Whee! And she's like, I don't know what they do after they finish riding the first 4 roads.
You're like, yay. Oh, man.
Yes. So it was
that's rad.
super cool. Like you get to see Mayan ruins, you get to see caves, you get to see like the Mayan pottery that's in the caves.
Oh, wow.
Hang out with she took us to a Mayan lunch, right? Like not like at a restaurant. Like we go to somebody's house
Okay.
and they cook us lunch.
Oh,
and we hang out and talk, and it was so cool. Again, like just meeting the people. And I think I have fantasies of either snowbirding or like slow travel or like living somewhere tropical for a period of time. And so like I love talking to all the people that are like, now Belize is home. So like everybody I can find that's like moved there, I'm like, tell me your story. What do you like about Belize? Like,
Yeah.
what got you here? So
Oh, it's beautiful. I've never been, but the pictures and things I've seen. I've been close on cruises, but
yeah.
never quite there.
right?
Yeah.
I know the cruise is like, because our cruise technically took us to Belize. It touched out on some island, man-made island off the coast of Belize.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I need to see this country. Like, I mean, the man-made island I was on didn't even have roads.
Yeah.
It's just like that small.
Rad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. And it's funny because I came back and read a book called The Flight of the Scarlet Macaw, which is about, you would love it because it's a lady story, right? Like she ends up in Belize after working for the circus so she can help with the photographing of the jaguars. And then the photographer leaves with her with jaguars and she opens a zoo.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yes. So why I brought that up, I don't know, but
It's an excellent side note right there.
there was a
Yeah.
reason. Oh, and there's a great line in the book that talks about Belize that is a landlocked, or it's a country, it's a land nation that thinks it's an island.
I believe it. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, totally.
I love it.
Yes.
Oh, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
You know, following your journey through there, somebody was in a fake prison.
Yes.
Remember that picture?
It was an old prison, like literally overtaken by nature. It used to be a prison.
Really?
Yeah. And the jungle grows fast. Like all of a sudden you're like, and there's a tree in the prison. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing how Mother Nature will just wipe out a city.
Yeah.
Whether it's with the jungle or the desert or whatever.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I know there's places over, excuse me, there's places over in like the Middle East and stuff, these little towns that are just being eaten by the Sahara.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
it's just,
Yeah.
they're moving over further away from it, but it's coming, the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Mayan ruins, they didn't exist until somebody started digging.
Right.
Right? Like they existed, but like nobody knew they were there until it was like, huh, weird.
Have you seen the what they're doing with LiDAR?
No.
Here we are. Here's my squirrel moment.
Yeah.
So I'm not an expert in it at all. So if you're going to fact check me, it's going to be right and it's going to be wrong all at the same time. But I know one of the parts that I do know is right is they're flying over with airplanes doing LiDAR. So LiDAR is like a radar, but it's seeing what's under the jungle.
Cool.
And they've been doing that in like around Brazil and stuff, right? So all these areas of the Amazon. And they're finding massive ancient civilizations.
Oh,
right
how
now.
cool.
And like massive.
Yeah.
Like millions of people were once here.
Right.
You know, and they're just seeing like towns and the grids of the towns and aqueducts and all this incredible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fascinating to be like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Like that whole like ancient civilization, historic areas, and just the history of it is just like, I really kind of like that.
Totally. Yes.
We could totally nerd on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a good rabbit trail.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look, rabbit holes. Yeah. So what was your favorite part about Belize?
Oh, man.
And it can't be Nathan.
I think I came away loving caves. Like, not that I didn't love caves before, but
Not what I would have expected.
I know,
at
right?
all. Yeah.
like we got to hike to these incredible caves. We went like when you're hiking, you're like hiking over boulders. It's not like the groomed hiking trails of Oregon. And like you get there and you're like, we're at the mouth of a river. Like it's just right, like sucking down through the bottom of the cave, and that's that river we just hiked up. And the caves are massive. They're huge.
Oh, wow.
And they had spiritual significance because the caves were, they were scary to the Mayan people. They were like, that's the bridge between the underworld and this world. And so we need to make sure we appease the gods in the caves. And so there's all this like rich history and energy and like magnificence that just comes from a cave in Belize. And I just came back and I was like, total tangent, but I'm like, someday I'm going to get to the biggest cave in the world, which is in Vietnam, the Son Dong Cave. Have I said that right?
Let's just say yes.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I was just really inspired by the caves in Belize. And there's so much to be inspired by. That's like one of my top ones.
I think that's pretty fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
Like straight up. And it's something about standing in history, right? Wherever that might be.
Yep.
And knowing like the Mayans and their whatever they did to appease the gods, you're like, that was here.
Yep.
Like right here. Mm-hmm. I just find that just absolutely rad.
Yes.
Which they don't say there.
Right. Total squirrel moment here, but my daughter right now is in France, And she just went to the catacombs today. So I'm seeing pictures on her Instagram of like, she's like, there's so many bones. And there's like picture after picture, like, I don't know, millions, maybe thousands, millions of people were buried in the catacombs. And she's just like rows of bones and skulls. I'm just like, huh, I've never been. And it was really like an educational moment for me to go like, huh, I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't realize she'd be seeing bones. Lots of bones.
I knew people see bones down there. Would you go?
Oh, yeah.
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 Me too, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'll go anywhere.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you see some of these cave guys and they're like crawling, like wedging themselves through, I'm like,
Have you been to the ape caves up in Washington?
I think I was there as a kid, but I don't really have a memory of them.
Okay. Because you get to do like a mini version of that there.
Yeah, mini versions. Those are okay.
That would be okay.
Yeah, we've been through some of the ice caves and stuff here in Oregon, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to go back up there again.
Yeah. It's a good ride. It's right off the BDR, right?
Yeah, hey, there we go. Side note, right off the BDR. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're backing up, flying kind of a little bit more around the globe here. Egypt. What meal? That happened.
That did happen.
Yeah. So you went with Nathan over there to that.
Yes.
And go. I'm very.
That was like funnily enough, it was for Nathan a bucket list sort of trip, right? Like he'd always wanted to see the pyramids. We signed up for some sort of, it's like they have timeshares, but you get points instead of, anyway. So we signed up for that and you get this like free stay anywhere. And Egypt was on the list, as one does early in the morning before one has had coffee. You're like, oh, look, Egypt's on this list. You want to go to Egypt? And Nathan's like, huh? Yeah.
Let's go.
So we're like, yes, we're going to Egypt. And this is like, we were riding motorcycles at that point, but I'm like, I'm like the idea of flying and riding. I was like, that was so outside of my worldview. So we, the vacation place was out at the Red Sea and we're like, well, we have to see the pyramids. Wow. Right? Yeah. So I book a random Airbnb that's called like the Pyramid View Inn. And it's this hostel on the backside of the pyramids. Everybody enters over here. And so it was super cheap because I'm super cheap when I go on these things.
Well, yeah.
Like you wake up and you walk upstairs for your included breakfast and there's the pyramids across the street. Like they're right there.
Right.
It was so cool. And again, we're like pretty new to international travel. Haven't traveled a ton. We go downstairs and there's a guy there and he's like, do you know where you're going? And we're like, not really. And he's like, I'll be your tour guide. So we don't know this guy. He's like, just leave your suitcases here. And like, we have no idea what we're getting into. It turns out to be the nicest guy. We've recommended him to our friends who have gone back over, right? Like he's a tour guide officially now. I don't know if he was then.
Okay.
But probably, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Why not?
Yes. Even before that, it was really funny. Like getting into like a taxi cab at the airport and like there's the language piece, the language barrier. Right. And we're like, okay, we're going to this place. And then he's like trying to point things out to us. And he's like, and that's the club. And we're like, uh-huh. And he's like, the club. We're like, the what? And he's like, ons. Oh, that's the club.
Boots and baits and boots and bats. I love it.
Great.
It's the international sign for club.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're like we find this guy and he's made himself our tour guide and so you go to the pyramids and he gives somebody a little extra money and you get to lay down in the sarcophagus of Nefertiti or like
whoa,
like totally like this is like Nathan's favorite memories. I'm stealing it. Sorry Nathan.
That's all right.
But like he's like in there and he's like there's stars and women and like all this stuff carved into the top of it. It was super cool. And like at that set up here at the main, like the pyramids of Giza, like you can see the hieroglyphics. But our tour guide's like, so I'm going to take you some better pyramids. I'm like, okay. So they're smaller. There's some older pyramids and there's some more that we didn't get to. But when you get to these older set of pyramids, you're like, oh my gosh, the hieroglyphics are still colored. Like they haven't been exposed to as much light and people and touching and like all the stuff that happens at the main pyramids. So I'm like, someday we got to go back and like ride motorcycles around Egypt and get to the older pyramids way down the Nile. And yeah, like the history. And we just had so much fun. Like, right. Like this guy's like, he's got like 10 kids at home. We're helping put them through Catholic school by,
of course. Yeah.
But oh my gosh, we talked to so many people there, and it was so funny because we had been told, like, there's all these rules, like don't kiss in public, like very little PDA, don't hold hands even, is probably not a good idea. And, we're on camels and we're being led around by an 8-year-old. So we're like on camels by the pyramids, and he's like, okay, give me your phone. And we're like, okay. And he's like, now kiss. And we're like, I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
But that's like one of our favorite pictures, right? We're kissing on camels in front of the pyramids.
What an epic shot.
Yes.
Oh my Lord.
And then you just run into people and they're like, they want selfies with you. Like, they want selfies with Americans, because what we heard from everybody we talked to is, tell people Egypt is safe. They need our tourism dollars. Mm-hmm. And like, there's stuff has happened there where it wasn't safe for a while. And that was the message. They were like, just tell them it's safe now. We've changed. Things have changed. Like,
right.
And I was like, you bet. Like, we had such good experiences there.
How long ago was that?
That was about 6 years probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to be hanging out on the Red Sea right now.
Maybe not right now.
Yeah, maybe not right now.
Yeah.
Might
But
get on a
it'll
random
get
rocket.
safe again.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you go back there to ride motorcycles, you should take a pancake guy with you.
Yeah.
Just saying. I'd be all over that one.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I discovered my love of falafel while we were there.
Oh,
I'd never really had a falafel. Never really
falafels
paid
are
attention to
amazing.
it. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh. Then I came back to Portland. I have to try falafels at every restaurant because you have to find the one that tastes as close as it can to Egypt.
Have you found one yet?
My favorite one was at a food truck over near Two Stroke. And then they're not there anymore. So now I'm back on the search.
Oh, no.
It's from Moroccan falafels. So they might have been a little different. But I mean, bummer. I have to go try more
Right.
falafel.
I find the more authentic, this is probably not the good side of me, but the more authentic somebody looks in the food cart, probably better the food is going to be.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I love it.
Because I know when I go to Indian food and it's like some high school, what's up, bro? You're like, I don't know. Or you get the old guy with the turban and that giant beard, and you're like, oh, this is going to be delicious. Yes, please. Yeah. That is rad.
Yes, it was great.
Yes.
Nice. We did go. We rented quads while we were there. That was our one little excursion, which was it was really kind of funny.
So you did ride motorcycles.
Sort of.
Yeah.
We were out at the Red Sea, and it was in the off season, so nothing's open. We didn't do any research. We just went to Egypt, right?
And go. Yep.
And so we're like, okay, what can we do?
I
Well,
thought you were the planner.
I know. I should be. So we're like, we find this thing to rent quads, and we leave our little hotel, and somebody picks us up and drives us up there, and they're like, sit here. So we sit, you're like in this beautiful outdoor rugs and, savannah, I don't even know, it's like, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and there's some animals. There's like a goat in a cage and a pig and like some random things. And so, and then they bring us some tea. And we're like, okay, so we signed up to ride quads. We don't quite know what's happening here, but they bring us tea. So we have some tea. And then they bring us a game, and they teach us how to play a game. And then finally they bring out a quad. And they're like,
okay.
So we're going to ride a quad. And they're like, so they say, talk to Nathan, right? Like, he's going to ride the quad. And he's like, okay, do you have another quad? And they're like, well, this one's not really working. So they're not really wanting me to ride this quad.
Right.
So they put me on the back, and we go up this road. Like, that's all. You can only ride on our property up to the sign, yada, yada. So then we get off at the sign, and then I get on the front. Nathan gets on the back, and I come back driving the quad, and they're just like,
What is going on?
what's happening here?
Do you know who she is?
So that was our quad riding experience. And then they're like, come back. Like, we're all friends on Facebook now.
Facebook friends.
Yes.
Love it. Man. So what was it like being on the Red Sea?
It was beautiful. It was a little bit, obviously off season, so it was a little
Yeah.
colder than I expected. I just expected for some reason it'd be warm all the time.
Yeah, it's always 110 degrees there.
That's what I thought. It was like 70, 60 maybe. It was nice. It was peaceful. Again, like with the off season, it was just us, like on our own little private beach.
That's
Like,
terrible.
There was like 4 other people maybe in the town. Like, yeah,
No kidding.
it was really quiet. And so we'd go down to our breakfast, and that's where we got to talk to like just so many locals, just again about that, like the state of tourism and what life is like. And this is the off season, they would tell us. And they're like, but usually there's a lot of people here, and we need more tourists, and come back. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, what an
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. So we came back a day early just so we could we're like, okay, we've had enough of like being the only tourists at the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to Cairo and see what else we can find.
Go back to the city.
Yeah.
The Sizzy.
The city. Yep. Yeah. And that day it was fun. We had somebody pick us up. They didn't really want us walking around by ourselves. I don't know.
It's safe. Don't walk around by yourself, but it's safe.
Safe. So it was like we're at the hostel and they're like, no, we've got a new tour guide in training. He'll come get you. So he came and picked us up and took us like to the nicest park in Egypt. It was so beautiful. It was probably the cleanest place we saw the whole time we were there. Wow. And we had him come with us and get lunch. And we ordered everything on the menu. And it was like $35.
I'm sorry, what?
It was
Everything on the menu for $35.
Yep. It was like, well, why not try it all?
Yeah, why not?
It was so cool.
So what out of that $35 experience were you like, nope, not doing that again?
It was all good. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was nothing like, it was falafel and lamb and like, you can't go wrong.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that stuff at
Yeah.
all. Lamb is,
Yes. Yeah.
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 It's kind of my jam anymore. When I see lamb on a menu, I'm like, yep, there we go.
Yes.
Lamb chops. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Yes. I know. I keep trying to there's a little place down in Troutdale that has goat, but I never managed to get there on the day it's open.
Oh, really?
It's driving me nuts because I had goat up in Seattle. You just don't find it very often. So
I'd be interested to try that.
yeah, goat's delicious.
Is that food carts or something over there?
It is. It's like a little indoor food cart. It might actually be in Gresham. I'll send you the name if you're interested.
No.
Yeah, clearly.
Absolutely. Clearly. Yeah, we have Corner 14 down here. That's like, I would go there every night if I could.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's so many selections, and then, go in there and grab a beer or whatever, and everybody knows me,
That's awesome.
And one time I took a drink, and I'm like, this beer's gross. And they're like, well, here's more for free. Okay, thank you. It works out for me, I guess.
It's your own Cheers moment.
Yes.
Pancakes.
He's back. Okay, I'm about to ask you a really difficult question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So you have to be absolutely prepared for this one.
It's a tough one. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be.
Okay.
Okay. You can only go back to Belize, or you can only go back to Egypt.
Ooh.
Only one.
Only
you can
one.
only pick one to go back one time.
That's a tough question. My heart says Belize and my brain says Egypt.
Okay. Well,
That's tough.
well, it sounds like you fell in love a little bit with Belize.
Yeah, I really do love Belize.
And it sounds like you're like, I have more to see in Egypt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much more history to experience there.
I don't know how well I would do in Egypt from the fact, not to take me off the expedition list if you guys ever go back, but again, it goes back to just more modern science and Egyptologists and how they're butting heads right now because the Egyptologists are like, this is the way it is. We're not going to change our view, but now there's new material or proof or more science done where it's like, this is a little older than you're thinking here, buddy, kind of stuff, So I'd be, well, what do you think about that? Oh, it's wrong. Are you sure? That would be me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like to learn and I don't like to push the buttons, but I'm also like, if there's an opposing view, I want to know the opposing view.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Because without an opposing view, how do we know this one's right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just like KTM and Honda. Honda's better, right?
KTM.
Tomato, Honda. It's all right. To be fair, I actually have never had a KTM to this day.
But you may someday.
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed at all. And it really comes down to I actually wanted the Starbucks Cruiser. That was the bike I was going for. And at the time of really getting serious about, it's time to buy another motorcycle, it was the GSA and the Africa Twin. And it was right when the 1250s, the R1250 GSA was coming out. So I was like, So I actually went to Cascade Motors and I said, I want that one. And this is what I want on it. I like that color and so on and so on. And he goes, come back here. He takes me in the back. They had a brand new one they just unboxed. Had like these really fancy heads on it and stuff, custom polished and everything. I was like, oh, yes, please. And I was dead set, like, I found my bike.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to him. I said, shoot me an email. Here's my card. Out the door price. And he goes, I'll have it to you in an hour. Yeah, it was like 2, 3, 4 hours later or whatever. I got that email and I went, nope.
Yes.
Nope.
Yeah.
There is no way I'm going to justify buying that and having it in the garage.
Right.
There's no way.
No.
And this is like pandemic time. So we're having that little COVID bubble of the freight of like non-existent freight. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find an Africa Twin to save my life.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking all over the country. Yeah. And I just randomly one day on a Sunday looked at Hillsboro or Motorsports of Hillsboro. Mm-hmm. And they said they had one. And I'm like, this is not, get out of here. Like there's no way they have one. So I had to wait. I think they were closed Mondays. Tuesday morning I call. I'm like, yes, I know this is not right, but you have an Africa Twin and blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, we got it. It's in the box still. I'm like, well, get that thing unboxed because I'll be there in a couple hours to get it.
Nice.
That was that.
Yes.
And then once I got on and started riding, I was like, this is the best bike I've ever ridden.
Good.
I just like, I have all the custom stuff just dialed in and I'm just like, I like this one. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And I am totally not brand loyal. I like bikes that are light, that have horsepower. So like coming off the DR650, it was like, actually really for that was the suspension, right? Like the KTM's lighter and had better suspension. If I was looking right now, I'd probably be looking at the Coveys. Because those are looking sweet.
Those are the hot bike right now. You been watching Crashy stuff? Mm-mm. Yeah, I tease with them.
I need to. I think I've seen one of his videos recently. Yeah.
I kind of joked around. I do lives. Mm-hmm. And so on the bottom of the lives, I'll do like breaking news and I just talk crap about everybody on the little ticker tape that goes on the bottom, So I said something on the aspect that Crashimoto got his mail order bride, the Cove 450.
Nice.
And I've been kind of following him on that and that looks like a pretty sweet bike. And they were there at Giant Loop last year and I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't ride one on purpose.
I think I need to this year. I think they're coming out with the 800 this year.
That's what I hear.
It looks
an
really
adventure
sweet.
bike.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I know.
Oh boy.
But not that I'm getting a new bike. We're just rebuilding Tigger right now.
Tigger.
I
love it. I love it.
Back when we were like dual sports or Dom, we also ribbed a lot on the KTM people because their bikes were always broken.
Right. Well, okay, KTM people. I'm going to have to say this right now because that is their reputation. However, it's almost like when you buy a KTM, it's like you buy a grenade and you pull the pin and they hand it to you. Mm-hmm. It may never go off or it may go off tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that true with any bike?
Not a Honda.
Yeah.
No, I think you could probably have an argument for just about any bike, but I don't know. I think anymore, all the bikes are pretty good. Yep. In fact, my cousin Cece got an 890 last year. I don't remember the full circumstances of it, but it was like somebody bought it, didn't want to ride it, so he got it used out of a dealership for basically free.
Whoa.
Yeah. I think he had, was it a KLR?
Oh.
I don't know. He had something where it wasn't a KLR. What the hell did he have? I don't remember. But it was basically almost like a straight trade. Like, here's this, here's that. Okay, bye. Here's a little bit of money on the flip.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, bye. I was like, haha.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about Belize, Revit, the birders, all of that stuff. You also say you're a journalist, right? Is that just a category you put up on your Instagram page, or is that something you actually have a little bit of passion about?
That was so... Yeah, I should probably think about that. I do a little bit of writing. I love to write. I'm not a talented writer. I don't think I'm a talented writer, but who knows? When I was doing
biggest critics.
I know, yeah. So when I was doing the Women ADV Writers, the online magazine, I think that's when I started just like I ended up writing for a number of different, like just here and there for small publications. And then when something comes up, like with the Northern California BDR, I was like, oh, like I'll do an article and see and send it off to Ina. If they need it, they'll send it off to a magazine. So I do. I love to write. I like to write about what I like, the adventures I have. And it's not really for anybody else. Kind of like, when we make videos, it's really so we can look back at it in 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
So I enjoy that process because it helps me reflect and be more present. Mm-hmm. And then I also loved like what I liked about women ADV writers. And I think I just got stretched too thin, but I liked being able to tell other people's stories. So it'd be like, just like you're doing here, right? Like, I'm going to ask this person some questions and then some more questions. And then like, hey, can I write an article about this?
Absolutely. I love it.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I attempted once upon a time to write. I wanted to pretend, right? Like, I can do this too, right? So it was actually when I did that solo trip in 2018. And I was really heavy into, who Neil Peart is? Mm-hmm. Right? Have you listened to any of
Ghost Rider?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's my favorite.
That book is amazing. So he has a whole series of books. And I was like, the way that he worded things and captivated just me, and being able to like describe things. It changed my writing. Not my writing, but my motorcycle riding experience.
Yeah.
Because it was, like you were saying earlier, the smells, right? And the visions and the temperature changes and all these little things that we get on a bike that you don't get in a car, right? And so I was really trying to be more mindful of, well, for example, when I took off on that trip, I took 26 up and over Mount Hood. I've done that, I don't know how many thousands of times. And it's one of those drives where you can get just tunnel vision, like whatever, right? I've been here, done that. I know what this corner is. I know that corner is. I've seen that tree before, right? But it was going through there with this different perception all of a sudden of listening to the way he would describe things in those books. It was like, wow, look at the way the sun is actually going through those trees. Oh, the smell of that little water next to me mixed with the pine. It just started. So every night at the end of that trip, I would write like a journal. And I would be like, okay, I want to write 4 pages. And I write like microscopic.
Oh, wow.
So it's like 4 pages is like 10 to everybody else probably, but I still wanted to write it down and express my thoughts of that day's writing. And I was going to do something with it. It's sitting somewhere in my stuff. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll throw it up, but I remember kind of going back through it and it was just kind of like this, right? We're having this moment for us and going back through, it's like, oh man, I remember that.
Yes.
I remember that smell. It's so fantastic. So the fact that you're doing the same thing and especially wanting to do it with somebody else, just being able to put that on paper and create something. I just love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is that something you want to do more of?
Sometimes. It's like I very much like everything.
Right. Yeah.
So I can get pulled in a lot of different directions and have to like kind of come back.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is like just being, so my current job, I'm like full-time mental health counselor, right? So I'm with people 30 to 35 hours a week. Half of those are virtual. And that is probably as much time as I like spending on a computer. Yeah. Yeah. And especially, that and coming out of, I was in a leadership position for a couple of years at my last company. So I was like 2-monitor computer.
Oh, yeah.
That was intense.
I wasn't sure where you were going. That little chuckle right beforehand. I was like, whoa, I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. So there is like, I'm like, I would love to write again. And I love it when I sit down and do it. But making time for it, I'm just like, when I'm done with my day, I like to put away the laptop and do anything else. Right. And so I haven't figured out how to balance that again.
Well, that's one of those things. I am totally guilty of being pulled in so many directions, and that was actually one of my fears of starting a podcast because I was already trying to become whatever that is on YouTube. And on top of that, still don't like video editing. Okay, I'll try this, so I'm trying to learn these 2 skill sets. And then, like I said, when I was like, I think I want to do a podcast, to actually doing it was a very short amount of time, so it was just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. And podcasts like this podcast, probably 10 hours of editing.
Whoa.
When it's said and done.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah.
That's a lot.
That's why the monitor right here is also like a little TV. So I will sit here and I'll have like basketball or football or something on, and I'm like, you know.
Yep.
The editing process. Yeah, it's so rad.
Yeah.
Yes. So what if you had unlimited resources, unlimited time, just unlimited everything? And if you wanted to, you can include Nathan. What would be your like dream trip anywhere in the world?
Good question. Like the whole world. But
Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, I think what I really dream about is what I call slow travel. Like I dream about actually keeping my job and living somewhere, right? Like you can stay here for 3 months, and then this country you can stay for a month, and this country you can stay here for 2 weeks. And like that would be my dream, is to just work and travel and be in a community and really get to know a place. And I'm less like passionate about the where, except for the fact that if I'm working, it's best if it's in the same hemisphere as my clients.
Sure. Yeah.
Otherwise I'm awake at night and I'm not a night person. So that would be like, that's probably like one of my dreams that feels manageable. Like we could do that sometime.
Yeah. That is so not the answer people give. I love it. It is like so far the other direction.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to be said about a remote job like that.
Right?
Yeah. I ran into a couple at the KOA in Moab, and that's exactly what they were doing. They were remote working, and it was a beautiful day. They both had their laptops, and they were like, we work from this time to this time, and then the rest is play. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what? That's a thing? Yes, please. Let me do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what a great answer.
Aw.
I would be like, oh, you know, it's gone. South America is like the number one.
Right.
That's where everybody wants to go, right down to Ushuaia, me included.
Yeah.
That's total bucket list thing for me.
Nice.
You know, but I think that is just, I don't even know how to really go. It's just like, yes, just visa wears out. We're moving on. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now, do you think Nathan could do that?
I think he would enjoy it. I think he's thought about like if he was to do it, like what would he do for work? Because he's a network engineer, and that tends to be a little bit more in person.
Right.
It's either in person or.
Oh, we have to start a new video up here. That just happened.
We have talked too long.
Yep. Come on now. Maybe. I don't even know where we're at. Oh, we're at 3. Yeah. And he likes to cut off at 3 hours. So let's take a quick pause here. So yeah, we had a little bit of a tofu. I guess we just like to talk too long. So maybe I said Nathan too many times, and it was just like, we're done with that. We're out. Maybe that should be like a drinking game for this.
There you go.
Oh boy. And if you're driving, no.
Right.
No.
Correct.
Absolutely not. So, but yeah, we were talking. I just think that's such a phenomenal thing. And you're saying like Nathan may or may not be able to do something like that because he was a network guy.
Yeah, like as far as like remote work, I'm not totally sure, because I think his options are either like in person or like you're working 24/7. That was his last job. He was working remotely, but he was on call all the time.
That's hard.
So
yeah,
I'm like, and I don't know. Like, I think we'll see. Like right now, we're really happy just being here, and there's so much to explore.
There really is.
Yeah.
There really is. I find myself, particularly like on a motorcycle, like sometimes like, oh, I got to get out and ride. Like right now, I just saw the sun shining a little bit out there, and I'm like, what am I going to do the rest of the afternoon? Right? But sometimes it's easy to get caught in that rut about small trips. It's like, okay, where do I go? Okay, I got this amount of time. Well, I've done everything 3,000 times already. You know? But then I'll ride it backwards. Can I do it this way? But it goes back to observing things differently.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
and stopping. And it's funny how you want to stop to take a picture and how that changes an experience. And it's for the better.
Yeah.
And I'm a terrible photographer. I look at, like, my photography skill limits are like my phone.
Yes.
Which, pretty rad camera, really, but it's not a real camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice just where you stop, and I'm trying to get a little bit more of a creative eye lately, and I'm trying to look at things a little bit differently. And again, I straight steal up some stuff from Sterling. So I'm like, I can do that, but my way, maybe. Anyway, so I've been kind of doing some of that lately. It's been kind of turning out all right,
nice.
But I'm just like, I want to learn so much more.
Mm-hmm.
But it also stops the moment to where you're like, when you're putting everything away and you just stop for a second, and you're looking around, and you're just able to just be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, yeah, this is cool.
Yes.
This is cool. And then, like, last weekend, I was having this, like, I took these pictures. If you go on my Instagram page, there's this picture with my front wheel, and, like, I'm taking a picture through the front wheel of the scenery,
mm-hmm.
And I was just like, sitting up there, and I'm just like, oh, this is so great, so beautiful. Kapow, kapow, kapow. I'm like, oh, and we're shooting. And that's close. So I'm gonna leave. That's a large caliber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the one thing around here you gotta watch out for.
We share our land.
Yeah, we do. I'm not a big fan of shooting in the woods. That's a whole other topic. So what else do you want to chit chat about? We've gone through a lot.
We have gone through
We have. So I know we're going to edit, but right now this has been recording for 3:04.
Dude.
Which is longer than Sean's episode. Congratulations.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
My big fear was like, I'm usually a better listener than talker. So.
It's really funny is a lot of times we get in here and people will say something like that.
Yeah.
And then it's like you get done at 3 hours or 3.5 hours or whatever, and people are like, that was easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, and that's really one of the things, like, my critics are either just kind of bots, I think. And I'm always super happy. Like, I'll screenshot when there's a bot giving me crap. I'm like, yes, I actually have a bot trying to troll me. Like, exciting, right?
Yes.
But I think a lot of people are like, these are just too long, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have an issue with the short podcasts, right? Like, I think they're great. And in the moto community, there's a lot of podcasts out there, but one of the things I wanted to do was kind of branch out, do more than just the moto community. Mm-hmm. So like this episode's inside the helmet because you're an inside the helmet lady, right? But, I got the current view episode done, and that was kind of not a political one, but it was like a current events. Mm-hmm. We talk about the Red Sea and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then outside the helmet is just people that aren't related, at all in this motorcycle community. And I had a friend of mine with muscular dystrophy on, Billy Zuricat, and it was just, it was awesome. But you can't have an in-depth conversation, in my opinion, on a script or on a time limit. Right. I want the conversation to flow naturally. Mm-hmm. I want it just to be like, we were all over the board. I mean, squirrel moment here, going back, talking about this and that, right? And you can't do that if you're trying to script it out or you're putting it on a time thing. Like, I want to get to know you, right? Because we know of each other. Right. We've met a couple times, but I don't really know you. Like, now I feel like I have a pretty good handle on you, Like, this is rad. Okay. Super. And there's a lot more that I would like to know. Yeah. And that's why I just like free form, long form conversations with people who I find interesting.
Yeah. And that's what I love about listening to your podcast is it's like sitting around the campfire.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's free form. It's just what we'd be talking about if we were just hanging out.
Exactly.
And that's super relaxing for me to listen to. Like, I just want to get to know people.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that very much. And so, as the counselor thing, and we already touched on all the dark stuff, right? Do you have any advice for somebody who might be listening to this right now? So let's just throw this little curveball at you, speaking of squirrel moments. So, especially guys, I want to advocate for men, but I also have to recognize equally there's a lot of the women out there that have issues, right? And I think I, obviously as a guy, and I know the proverbial stupid guy card on how we're supposed to be, right? And it's from a young age. Like, you're fine, dude. You're fine. And I think it also, as parents, like, we may not have the tools to answer those questions when our kids come to us, right? So we're doing the full circle, like, dude, you're fine. It'll be okay. I promise, right? I'm totally guilty of that. And now that my kids are men, right, and they both have children and wives and everything, and they're coming to me with other struggles and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, hold on. I don't want to be, you're fine, bro. You know, I want to be able to talk it through, and I want them to come to me and be like, Dad, I need you right now. I don't want to be, right, that other person. So with that being said, if somebody's coming to, whether it's you as a friend or you as a parent or whatever, what kind of advice do you have for them to help somebody who's in need or maybe even in crisis?
Right.
That's my fear. Is somebody coming to me in a true, like, guns in hand, it's racked, safety's off. I'm like, that's the one where I'm like, I don't know if I have skill set for that. Right.
And yeah, most people don't. Right. Like, that's where I also reach out for help.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's, you know, we call in help because we know that most of these impulses are going to pass in 30 to 60 minutes. Right. So if we can keep you safe for 30 to 60 minutes, we've got a chance. But right now, there's no reasoning with somebody who's like, there's just like, you reached out. I am here. I'm going to help because you reached out for a reason. I don't know what it is yet. And we're not going to know for a minute, but we got to get help in here with us. So when I think crisis, I think like, yeah, let's bring in the community, right? And that could mean like, I'll come get you. I will sit with you. I'll take you to the hospital. I will take you where we need to go. I think like less crisis. The thing that I usually think about is the idea of like, how do I decenter myself? How do I center the person who's coming to me? Because their life experience is not my life experience. And our tendency as human is to join with people by sharing our life experience. And that can be totally useful. But when somebody's like coming to us, a lot of times what they need is to figure out from their viewpoint, from their values, from their point of view, what they want to do next. And so if we can help draw them out, like you have really natural skills at this, right? Like what's going on for you? And, oh, that sounds really hard. Like reflect back. That sounds really challenging. That sounds really sad. And let them talk. They can come to their own conclusions. Like most people don't want or need advice. They want to be heard and seen. And so if we can keep them in the center of that and keep ourselves out, and then there's always times, right? Like there are times where it's like helpful to be like, yeah, like it's tough to parent. Like that my favorite thing to tell my parents that I'm working with is like research shows we only have to hit the mark 30% of the time for kids to turn out fine. 30%?
What?
30%.
So we put a high standard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we have to be right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Right. It's like 30%. I can do that. Right?
Yeah.
Relationships are about, that's the other thing I tell people, they're about ruptures and repairs. And so,
What a good term.
yeah, if you can learn how to repair, we can mess up. Like that's good for our kids to see because they're going to also be in relationships someday and they're going to need to learn and know how to rupture and repair.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I think that was one thing that I think that Casey and I did with our kids growing up is we did a good job of, I think, being able to argue and have our differences and then also show that it's okay to disagree. We still love each other and we're growing and we're going to be fine. You know, it's just a part of the relationship. It's how to communicate. And I was a horrible, horrible, horrible communicator. As most people are, I think. It's a difficult skill set to learn for sure. Now, your little statistic there that you said about 30 minutes, of keeping them within that 30 minute, I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess I have a lot more to learn, you know, and then making sure that they're heard. And that's one thing that I think when somebody's coming to me, I try to listen, and stuff. But I think sometimes I also try to be like, oh, I was there.
Yeah.
And this is what I did too. And maybe that's not always what I need to do. Maybe step back and listen a little more, but it's tough.
And that's like a gut thing, right? Like sometimes it is really helpful for somebody to know, like, I have also been there. And I think we can always ask for permission. Like that's where I usually will go is like, I've also been there. Do you want to hear a story right now or can I listen to you? Which is more helpful.
That is profound advice actually right there. Being able to have that kind of a conversation and be like, yeah. Because I got a lot, but I don't have a lot, if that makes sense. I have my experience.
Yeah.
That's it.
And, I mean, and a lot of, you've got a lot of life experience. And you're like trying to do this like research and reaching out and how do you do more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to be able to, at some point, I think I would really like to put on some sort of bring people in for a clinic, if you will. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be the moto community, but I think that's where we start, you know, and try to reach out. I don't know what that looks like or whatever, but I've had these little thoughts, you know, especially with, like I said earlier, people, when they reach out to me, I don't always know what to do. And sometimes, like I said, thankfully nobody's been in like absolute crisis, but I think there's been a couple that have been pretty close, you know, so I try to direct them towards whatever help that they need at the time. But also sometimes in text messages, it's so tough. And they don't want to talk on the phone.
Right.
I'm like, hey man, would you rather video chat? You know? No. And it's like I'm trying to relay a message, but you don't get the tone of voice, the body language, and everything. And I think that is so tough. Because as Bill Burr says, no doesn't always mean no. You know, in that little skit. So it's like, how do you, the message is up to the reader, you know, and that's really tough because I'm sure Nathan has probably sent something to you or vice versa. And you're like, what are you talking about? You know?
Right.
Oh, okay. I got it, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Like communication is something that we didn't learn maybe as much as we needed to as kids, just all of us. And you get into a romantic relationship and then insert cell phones.
Oh, right.
Like, how does any relationship survive?
Hold on. I just need to send this text, baby. Yeah. You're like,
Yes.
dressed up for you. Let's go out. Hold on.
Well, even just that sense, like you said, like getting a text message from somebody and you're like, you're reading it one way, they're reading it, they sent it meaning a different thing. You can't hear the tone of voice. Like,
yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been multiple times where I open up a direct message and it's like a book. And I'm like, I'm just at that age too right now where glasses, I've never needed them until recently. And that I forget them at home. I go to try to read a menu and I'm like, I don't know. I'll take this. It comes to the table and you're like, yeah, okay, I guess we're trying this today. You know, but it's the same thing. Like sometimes I'll have to be like, oh, hold on. I need to go read this, get my glasses on. I'll have to read it. Like sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 times going through because I'm like, I'm trying to read fast the first time and I'm like, oh, hold on here. Go back. It's so weird. You know, I don't think I expected being in this space, and I wouldn't have been here without Critter. And then Critter, somebody else did his. Yeah. And I know that there's somebody else that you might know who did a video on this a while ago. I've been trying to dig that one up, and I haven't found it yet. So maybe you can direct me to that one. Yeah. But, yeah, it's an interesting space to be in, and it's a good space to be in.
For sure.
Because it's just, there's not a lot of it out there, it seems like.
Yeah. And it's beautiful really to see like the male community coming together to support each other and talking about feelings, because this is something that as women we are socialized to do from birth on, right?
Right. Yeah.
But as guys, it's like rub some dirt on it. Don't cry. You're fine.
Yeah.
Like those are the messages you get.
Yeah.
And so to come to a place where you're having feelings because you're human and that's how it works and you're in a dark space, like the ability to actually express that to somebody, like it's so amazing to have had that role modeling. When somebody gets to that dark space, they're like, oh yeah, Ian did a video about this. Maybe I'll reach out to Ian.
Yeah. And by all means, reach out, you know. and find you on betterhelp.com. I think that is, again, that's just super phenomenal that you're doing that.
Yeah.
For
I mean,
sure.
I love, like, I feel like I love my in-person counseling. I love the actual, like, that work, but BetterHelp and Talkspace were very visionary, right? They're like, let's take counseling out of the insurance realm, first of all.
Yeah.
Right? It's a subscription, just like you'd pay for cable.
Mm-hmm.
And let's make it so people can text message, they can video chat, they can telephone, like whatever works for you. So it's like, it is such a beautiful and cool platform that's available to people.
And think about the people that it's like saved, right?
Yeah.
It's probably countless,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Because I've said this before, there is getting help and wanting to get help.
Right.
Big difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in both situations.
Right. Yes.
Like, I'm just going through the motions. I think they want to hear this. This is what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
To like, no.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do this now.
Yeah.
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 Anyways, that's a little bit of a fun little conversation there at the end.
Mm-hmm. I could talk about this stuff all day.
I know. And I think, I have a couple things I want to chat with you about a little bit off air. Aren't you also kind of roundabout here? Aren't you like part of Moscow, or is that just something you use?
Giant loop. So
Giant loop girl.
I'm a giant loop girl.
That a girl. All right. You heard that here first, people. I made a mistake. I seem to remember seeing Moscow gear on somebody. Maybe that was Nathan.
I don't think so. Unless he may have had a set for a minute, but we've been giant loop since I was at, which rally? 2-track rally, I think.
Okay.
Needed some gear. May have been before that. Anyway, needed some gear. Talked to both people. Just like loved Harold.
Yeah. What's not to love about that guy?
He's like, I'll get you fixed up. We got me some bags.
Yeah,
So
here. Yeah.
yeah. So we're like, I don't think we're any official like ambassadors with them, but we definitely like whatever we can do to help them. They try to help us out. Like it's been really nice.
They've done some phenomenal things I'm not an ambassador. I'm not, I don't know if I should say I'm not affiliated with them, because I pimp them out all the time.
Totally.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the way it is. And I know things have changed a little bit, but recently, so last Christmas, I got my 3-year-old granddaughter a little electric motorcycle, and it looks like the AT-AT. And that's specifically why I bought that one.
Yes.
Right. So it comes, I put this whole thing together, and as you know, the stickers, right? So all my friends, I put their stickers on the bike and stuff. It's cool, whatever. So I had a bunch of them just laying around the house, and then Sean had a few others too. And I just, I pimped that thing out with stickers. It looks so good. But I was like, I'm always riding around with my giant loop stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. So I just shot a message like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I shot it to somebody that no longer works there. Mm-hmm. And I sent this message, and I didn't hear anything back for, I don't know, maybe a week or something. And then all of a sudden I got another message. It was like, hey, something in the mail from Santa. I was like, rad. So they sent me a brand new zigzag bag.
Nice.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I put that on the side of her bike, so it looks like one of my luggage bags, one of the Moto-Cakes or whatever. So I put that on there. That thing is awesome. And because she likes rocks, so she'll go ride around. She'll stop, pick up a rock, put it in a little thing, So I had to have the container or somewhere for her to put that. But I was just like I wasn't expecting free.
Right.
Like, I'm like, do you have a used one I'll buy or whatever? I didn't, whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact they were just like, here you go.
That's so sweet.
That's awesome. So I did a little thing, a little video. She's like, thanks, Giant Loop, for my bag.
That's so cute.
I was just like, it's awesome. She's so cute.
I want to hang out.
Yeah. Oh,
I
absolutely.
love picking up rocks too.
Oh, there you go. I want to do something. We've been talking about riding together, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Mm-hmm. So she's afraid of the bike in the garage because it's loud.
Yes.
So she doesn't want to be, if I'm going to go on a ride and she's here, door shut. However, when I'm coming into the garage, she has no problem with that. Whatever. So we were just talking about going for a ride together, and I'm like, I think I want to go up to Lottie to the staging area and just do some pictures of us in the mud, somewhere just next to stuff, and be like,
That's so fun.
she's got her helmet and her gloves and everything. It'd just be super cute.
That'd be awesome.
And I keep telling Mama, I said, hey, Shelby, the real one's coming next year. She's like, nope. I'm like,
Maybe.
yeah. So they just had their second baby too. So I'm in the hospital.
Yeah.
And little Emerson's sitting there and I'm holding her. And I'm like, Emmy, just wait a couple years. You guys will be out at, Portland at the motocross on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be like, oh, there come the Friedel girls again. Great. I could just feel Mom looking at me like, I'm like, I'm not looking.
That is
Oh,
fun.
man. Super rad.
Aw.
Well, I think this is probably a good spot to wrap it up.
Sounds good.
I really, really appreciate the time you've given me today because I know how valuable it is. And then, from the time you left to get here to go back, that's more than a half a day,
Aw.
And I'm tickled. Like I said earlier, I feel like royalty is in the house, and you could ask everybody, like Sean and people I've been texting this morning and Casey. I'm like, I am super nervous about today. I'm like, I don't know why. And it's just like, have I done enough recon on her? Have I done this? Have I done that? I'm just like super nervous all day, but it turned out, I think, amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so fun to talk to you.
Yeah. And you have an
Great.
open invitation to come back, talk about whatever you want, whenever you want. And if you want to bring Nathan, you can even do that. I'd love to have him on at some point
Awesome.
too. And in fact, in a perfect world, I'd like to have you both on and talk about your love story.
Aw.
Aw. He's like, oh no, what am I getting into here? We can ride wheelies later, Nathan. It's fine.
All the way here, all the way home.
Yeah. Hey, let's go. Fun fact. I blew a seal riding a wheelie up a Critters event.
Oh,
Yeah.
oops.
Yeah. I didn't notice till I got home, but I was like, oh, it was the kids in the parking lot because I did come down really hard. Okay. So, anything else you need to plug while you're here? Your socials, I'll leave all of that down below.
You bet. I'm Free Spirit Pixie. Our YouTube is For the Love of Knobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ride Right.
Or, yeah. And right. Keep that up for sure. That goes through my brain sometimes. I'm coming around a corner. I'm like, hey, dude, you should be on the right side.
Yes.
But so-and-so's in front of me, and they're throwing rocks at me.
There.
Yeah, fair. Okay, with that,
Cool.
we're out. I
All right.
appreciate you.